Oh boy, have we missed you all. It is yet another show for our Apex Legends Global Series community, but our first show in North America since our elongated break that has separated our first 5 match days from our final 5 to determine who will be heading to LAN to have a shot at lifting that playoff trophy, just like that famous, iconic moment you witnessed be stolen by TSM over Ascend. Who will do it this time? Will the champion be in North America? Will TSM even be there? We'll have to find out today and continue that story. My name is Rain Day. Thank you so much for being involved, everybody in the chat. We are excited to kick this action off for this afternoon. But of course, I can't do it alone. I'm joined by 2 of the best in the business, friends, co-workers. Let's start off by introducing one of our 2 casters to join, Spider Tiff. Welcome back in the building. It's North America time for our second half of the split.
Look, I'm so ready to see what North America has in store after just about 3 weeks off. It is time to dive into the action, especially after such a monumental day over in the EMEA region. How much better can it get?
Not much better for me. I mean, also, I'm a sports fan. My Lakers won, so I'm happy today. It's a good Sunday. Tia, how are you feeling? I know we just went off a barn burner in EMEA. How's NA looking forward for your expectations today? It seems like we've got a lot of stories to tell in this Group A versus B.
That we certainly do. I am very excited to jump into the North American region. As we saw in EMEA, teams are clearly gearing up. Those that aren't quite sure about their LAN playoff standings are kicking it into high gear for the next couple of days. And specifically today, I'm curious as to who's been adapting the best, which of our realm fraggers are going to find themselves in the better positions, and what it's going to look like in one of our best regions.
Yeah, a lot of tournaments, a lot of mid-level tournaments happening throughout these weeks. People staying busy, staying competing. But also, when you look at this top prize, it feels like we're midway, and this is that part where people can fall asleep a little bit at the wheel. It doesn't feel like you're close to home yet, but just a few turns, and you're really right back onto that straight path. That is a sprint towards the finish line, and that is, I think, ultimately where we find our teams, not only here, but in the entire global series. So everyone's been getting work done. Let's go ahead and update you on all of our regions before we jump into North America, starting out with APAC North, who have been putting on a show. These have created some of our fan favorite teams at LAN events. Speaking of, notably Fnatic, they have put themselves in a great spot to start off this split, continuing with Yuka, Melt, Sarah, and Umi-chan. They've let go of the Watson, which you've seen pick up across EMEA. I wonder if they'll bring it back, but so far the Valkyrie, Bangalore, and Seer has worked wonders for them. Can they keep it up? Will they be a threat, as always, in the top 10 winners bracket and championship finals and split 2 playoffs? We'll find out.
We will find out indeed, but I want to talk a little bit about Gonbare, the South Korean team that was picked up in September 2022, consisting of Dogma, Jizna, and Jungi. They are impeccable. Dogma formerly played with Reject, Riddle, Fennel, won the APAC North ALGS champs in 2021. So super talented team. But speaking of talented teams, I want to talk to you a little bit more about Pulverex as well. They've had a huge standout performance. F-Chan, and co stealing hearts in ALGS champs 2022. Just overall, and you can see NTH right now, 79 points at the top of the season standings thus far. They made a huge showing in London as well at the top of the group stages. So I'm excited to see what they can bring forward as well.
Let's be honest, EMEA, they had some highlights, but in terms of the overall feelings of that top 20 in the final championship day on our Split 1 playoffs, it was a lot of APAC North, and of course, APAC South representing. Let's walk through how they've done to get here, and it will be to no surprise that the newest APAC South esports org to enter, Moist Esports, has done just that, stayed in contention and stayed flowing like water, like my man Bruce Lee says, to keep things really at a strong point of leverage. They have started off so well that I think if they continue this pace, they'll certainly be at LAN, and they will certainly have a big fan base, as they always do when they go to those events.
I mean, you talk about Moist's consistency. They won the regional finals in one of the shortest time periods in Split 1, but Onyx Esports, formerly known as Boogie Borders, are really giving Moist Esports a run for their money. They made a showing in London as well, and I couldn't imagine to see what we're going to see out of Raki, Shady, and Fussy. So, I mean, Dia, I'm curious to hear who's got your eye in APAC South.
I mean, I'm thinking back to the team that captured all our hearts at LAN, and it's Dreamfire. With their incredible performances there, it's no surprise that they're doing well back home. 7th in the region right now. Got to work up to that 6th that they were just last time, but being willing to pull out the Mad Maggie, this is a squad that is willing to experiment and goes wild.
Yeah, and speaking of experimenting, it used to be Catalyst as an idea of a staple pick. Now, as we've seen in EMEA, people starting to drop off on it. Ironblood Gaming still keeping with it. Pan representing IBG in that position, helping to clutch up moments like this and earn them some solid victories. It's not enough to stay in the top 5 right now, but when you look at the representation, they are starting to move forward. And with 101 kills, they actually are a top 5 contender in terms of how much they've been fragging. They just need the points there. They just need probably another match day, and they'll be sitting pretty, looking to potentially qualify for our regional finals, and of course LAN coming up after that. Let's take a look though at the other South in our region. It's South America. We got 2 teams to highlight, Tiff, starting off with Team Singularity.
Hey, Team Singularity, it's the name that you think of the most when you think of South America. And Elysium recently announcing their retirement. It's going to be Bin stepping in, so I'm excited to see what they are going to bring coming forward. They're currently sitting 5th overall in South America. And if you're kind of impressed with how that's working, the top 5 of that region will advance onto the playoffs at the end of S2.
And we got to be talking about the top teams, and I mean the tippity top. ATH have been slaying this split with 179 kills over the course of the games they've played so far. Each of their individual members is in, no surprise, the top 10 in terms of kill participation per match. ATH have shown us willingness to pull out crazy skirmishes in the end game, and they are looking on fire towards the back half of the split.
South America, always a region that seems like they've got a ton of promise in our big events. Have yet to really make a splash in that final match point day, but could this be the moment the team switch with Team Singularity, adding that new roster member, and they maybe push past the precipice? We'll find out. We'll keep you posted on what's happening in there. But of course, in EMEA, if you missed our earlier broadcast, let's update you on some teams you have to be paying attention to. Specifically, I hope you're not confused about this one. Vexed is in form. They are chronically incredible at Storm Point. Where they've struggled a little bit here, despite being at the top of the leaderboard still, is in World's Edge. Tyler FPS, a standout for me earlier, captured 13 kills in just 3 games on Storm Point. If they keep up this lethality, they're going to be a team to beat.
I mean, you talk about lethality, we have to talk about Fire Beavers as well. The monumental showing that they had today, you know, Alliance had a pop off as well, but Oirain, Impulse, and Taskmaster, it's absolutely disgusting what this trio is able to kind of make happen. So I'm scared of them, honestly.
You've also got to put respect, of course, Tiff, on a team that actually hasn't secured their qualification spot just yet, but Gaming Gladiators have looked really good. They're sitting in top 13 right now, and after barely missing out on their chance through the LCQ's last split, I know that they're back and hungry for blood. Hardeki has been going utterly wild this split. He's 7th in the league in damage.
And when you talk about a team that's in a lower position than maybe you would have expected, on the flip side, it's Aurora, who are a squad that I thought coming into this, finally getting cleared to be able to join us at LAN, are looking like they might not make it. Sitting in 20th place right now, I feel that they have got a lot to prove to this region, but not only that, to themselves. They've got to get themselves in a position so that they are joining us at LAN, because that is what we have been waiting for. Fire Beavers and Aurora are usually 1 and 2 seeds to join us at the big show. They've got 5 more games, 5 more match days to get the job done. So stay tuned with those EMEA storylines. That's a roundup of the entire world of the ALGS. And of course, it leads us to North America now to start looking at who is going to make their move and win. The time is running out. The clock is ticking. And Tiff, Dia, it is almost too difficult to pick one storyline to focus on, because when you take a look at these teams here just in the top 10, so many things stand out, Tim.
I mean, the most notably, you see the new name Wildcard joining the mix. MLS, then known as Forever Free Agents, getting signed to Wildcard. And I know we want to talk about that a little bit, Dia, because that's an org that's from your original neck of the woods. But Optic Gaming in 6th place, Furia in 7th. It's a dynamic top 10 here, and some big names missing from the mix.
One thing, too, Dia, I think to consider, the fact that XSET, while we stay just a bit on this page, is in Group C. That means they have played only 3 match days so far, still out in front. That is so impressive as we push back to the back half, too. I want you to react to the XSET performance and these final 10.
And here's where we find the team that everyone is looking for, right? We've got XSET up at the top. We could have predicted that towards the start of the split. TSM at 14th right now is the big question mark in NA for fans all across the countries. At TSM has been the criminal underperformer of the split, so we're looking at them going into this match day. But I also want to throw Luminosity in the mix. You and I have been talking about this a little bit, Rain Day, but teams like Luminosity and Sentinels were extraordinarily consistent last split, and now they've fallen off a bit of a cliff.
And you've even seen it as we head to our back end, too. Teams like Drug Free sitting into 20th, and also maybe things like Tripods. You look at potential. You look at teams that have won games, won fights, have been in final circles, haven't been able to put it together across sets. Can they do it today? Will this be the start of a new journey? Listen, XSET and 3 match days hit 60 points. Most teams hit about 57. Can you add 57 now in your final 5? Because if you do, you're probably going to land. But that's a big, big if. And there's going to be a lot of teams standing in their way. One team, though, that has had a fantastic story in terms of being able to be the team that we didn't expect to talk about over the past year as much as we've been having to, is Dark Zero. They went from back-to-back playoff and championship winners into figuring out a way to try to do it again on the European soil. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. They made it into that bracket, but they couldn't get to match point quite yet. And they were a little stunned because it then became the TSM show again. It kind of pushed back their three-peat possibilities. But at the start of the season, it looked great for them. They literally won this very A versus B matchup 5 match days ago. So we were thinking, is this them going back to it? All of a sudden, we got some very interesting news of obviously Sharky not able to continue playing for Dark Zero. And that was a shocker as well. But we also saw some news across the league in a different fashion with Rambo announcing his retirement, joining Sentinels after a performance with the guard that did not end up working out so that squad stayed together. We saw Rambo have this tweet that kind of shook us to our core in a way because of just the hair flying, the iconic picture, the moments that he's had in such a short tenure in the ALGS. He has truly made a huge impact. And on the 28th of March, if you saw that tweet, you were seeing so much love, so many videos and photos for this player and what he has done for the squad. But obviously, remember, Dark Zero had lost Sharky Step Down. There were some rumblings in the community, and what we ended up seeing just a few days ago that kind of shocked the world was that Rambo is actually taken to a conversation with his family. For one of the reasons, one of the important aspects of why he decided it was time for me to hang up my competitive streak right now. And he said he got the support from his family members, his mother in particular, and the opportunity that they saw filling in for Sharky's absence in Dark Zero was too good to pass up. This has led us to an unprecedented return of Rambo after just 3 weeks ago retiring, and a unprecedented view of Dark Zero, 2-time winners without Sharky by Zero and Jim Burton's side. What does that mean for today? I'll tell you what, Tiff. It means that we cannot wait to see what happens because the entire world is waiting with bated breath to see how this new Dark Zero ends up performing. If Rambo maybe is the key to lift that trophy once again. We've got more and more storylines, too, in terms of roster changes. We'll bring that up for you as well as you kind of salivate on that one, because I know I am. But also, Tiff, we see Zenile joining Sentinels. That's another element to this that kind of went in the shuffle of Dark Zero's Rambo and Sharky changes.
Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting. And man, I wish I could see some more smiles on these faces, bro. These little mugshot players. It's tough, right? I'm excited to see what Rambo does on Dark Zero. I had a chance to talk to him and his mom. They actually were on the same flight from London back home to Atlanta. And his mom is so supportive. She was there in London in the crowd going wild. So I want to see a good showing here for Rambo on Dark Zero. And some other things, Hambino in for CCE, JQ out for Drop In Gaming. They picked up Crook. We talked about Wildcard Gaming entering the mix, picking up Forever Free Agent. Albrelelli leaving TSM as a content creator, in addition to all of these that are on the screen. It's a lot of move here in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I love Albin. It was a very great, I'm mutual on both sides. But I got to say, man, that guy created content for TSM while playing on about 25 other orgs. I don't know how they made it happen. I don't know how Al was C9 TSM and LG Days TSM. I mean, they really were flexible with that guy. But that's the talent that he brings, and that's the kind of guy you got to be flexible with. Man, lots of fun here and a lot of great stories. Obviously, Dia heading into it. And Tiff, she gave her piece right there. But let's talk about today, Dia. I want to get your eyes overview, the top-down view of what's going on in Group A versus B, because we got some heavy hitters.
That we certainly do. I mean, most of the teams that are currently in a position to qualify for LAN are showing up here today, and it's by a pretty large margin. The last time these two teams met up, Optic actually had their big answer to the question a lot of people had for them as to whether they would be able to perform in this split or not. It was their resurgence, and we're still looking for a lot more from these squads. But if there were to be a group matchup that is the most terrifying, it's absolutely A versus B.
Yeah, This is one of those that is like, Tiff, when you look at it, there's just teams that you could see as winning this entire thing, not only at an American stage, but a global stage.
Mm-hmm. Look, there's something that I completely spaced about during our break. Take a look at Lanimals, that roster. Yeah, we talk about Alberlelli resigning from TSM as a content creator, but I forgot that Duplex signed on to coach Lanimals.
It's going to be an interesting run. And of course, with all of these teams, it's always difficult for us to start the day and not know who we're going to focus on in terms of, the choices that we've got. 6, 7 teams usually come to mind, but then we have to, before the show, narrow it down to 3. So let's start off with you, Tiff. Who do you have your eye on specifically as your one to watch for this afternoon?
I mean, we'll keep on the momentum from the Dupe, formerly on Optic Gaming. So let's go ahead and talk about Optic. They had a monumental performance in match day number 4, where actually they didn't get a single map victory, but 3 top 3 finishes, and just such consistent on the day. They were able to take the match day victory by almost 30 points, kind of similar to what we saw earlier in EMEA, that alliance domination. And well, that's what Optic Gaming was been able to do. Skittlecakes knocked and dropped, dude. They have been so monumental together, and I'm excited to see what they do here today. But Dia, who do you have your eye on?
I'm happy to tell you, Tiff. I'm happy to tell the whole world, because this is the most criminally underrated team in North America right now. I'm talking about the Meat Lovers. They have been the best fighting team, bar none, in the entire league, have the most kills of the split at 99. And though their damage numbers aren't all there, interestingly enough, Zainu, 5th in the league right now, their kill participation is all top 10 in North America. They're the only squad running crypto right now. They've experimented with Mad Maggie. They've got the Wraith sometimes. They've got the Bangalore, but they play this high kill, bully oriented style, and they're changing what it means to be an Apex Pro in North America. So suffice it to say that I'm a pretty big fan of the Meat Lovers, and they are absolutely my team to watch coming into today. Rain Day, can you top that?
I mean, changing what it means to be an Apex Pro in North America? Dia, I don't think I can top that at all. I'm not sure anyone can. They've changed the definition. Well, I'll tell you who created the original definition. It might just be Dark Zero. They took it from Australia, APAC South, and brought it all the way over here to NA to show them what it means to win championships. Then, wouldn't you know it, that next split, North America then raised a championship. Coincidence? I think not. Dark Zero, though, obviously losing out on Sharky right now, dealing with his life and his passion for the game, but in almost an interesting synergistic way, they have found Rambo's willingness to be a part of the squad is maybe something that would lift them up into that level that they remember being at when they were hoisting that trophy. I certainly am excited to see how it goes. It's going to be a test for everyone involved, but if there's a team that can pass it, I certainly think Dark Zero has the pieces in play to be able to get the job done. We'll have to see, though, and that'll be in just a few minutes as we kick things off. No longer World's Edge is where we start. That was the first half of the split. We now start on Storm Point. We'll do 3, and then we'll switch it over to finish on World's Edge. That changes things, by the way. You may think that's insignificant, but we've seen teams like in EMEA, Vex, get 45 points on Storm Point and just a few, 10s on World's Edge. It is something that you cannot anticipate but you got to do the best with what you're given. And boy, oh boy, is North America set us up for a show on either side of the standings. I cannot wait to get into the action. I know two people who are great at calling it. Let's send it over to Spider, Tiff, and Dia to get into game one.
Thank you so much, Rain Day. I am so excited. Dia and I back at it once and again. We had so much fun calling all the action in EMEA earlier today, but now we get to kind of sink into what we're going to see for North America. And Dia, I'm just curious here. What do you think that we're going to see? These teams have had 3 weeks off. You know, they've been playing Realm, they've been dabbling, doing a little bit of testing, but any changes that we may see? You know, Alliance with Ashe, it performed well earlier.
That's true. That's true. And in terms of meta, North America hasn't really caught my eye too much. We've got a few teams that like to experiment here and there. We called out Meat Lovers earlier, and I'm really excited to see CLG hitting the stage again because they do stick by that caustic, especially on World's Edge. But you raise an interesting point here about the Ashe and things like the Rampart that we've seen before. I like Aberlale's Rampart, but I will say, Tiff, I don't expect these teams to experiment nearly as much as their EMEA counterparts, but I am looking at teams with roster swaps to really change things up. And my focus, as it was during the start of the season, is going to be on Sentinels now more than ever because they've got big questions to answer. Not just can they come back, but how are they going to do with a new third? How Zenile slots in alongside RKN. Yeah,
it's true. RKN has just been in the game for so long. Incredibly smart there as that IGL for Sentinels. Let's pull up the season standings. We can have a quick chat on basically setting up the game plan of what we're going to see. We do have that regional finals just a couple match days away, which will be so prevalent. You know, thinking back to Split 1 where we had witnessed ESA win that in literally 5 games, which kind of threw a thorn in the side for a lot of the teams that were looking to find enough points. Then we see Furia not making it to Split 1 playoffs, but Ixet, who you won't be seeing here tonight. Actually, I think Nocturnal is joining Wig and Greek for a watch party. They're just hosting some big NA watch party. I know that Snipe Down, you'll see here, FaZe, they're in 2nd place overall. I think they just kicked off something new, Dia. I think it's Apex After Hours. I know Snipe Down was kind of wanting to start doing more content around that. So if you are all about that, make sure you check that out later. But between the teams from 11th through 20th place, Dia, let me know your thoughts.
I'm definitely looking at teams actually that I'd say even fall further below this because we talked about Sentinels, big questions about Luminosity. I'd include CLG in here as I think that they are also one of our more underrated teams. I have a lot of them. I have too many underrated teams, and that sort of makes the whole league underrated, and it undermines me, Tiff. So we won't stay too long on them, but suffice to say that I expect great things from CLG. Taking a look a little further down, however, really curious about how Noxious are going to perform today. It has been a constant journey for this squad, and I actually really like the roster that they have put together. Some good consistency here, and yet this has been arguably their worst split so far since we saw these players enter the Pro League. So how Noxious will do towards the back half of the split may actually be heavily impacted by this second wind that a lot of teams are getting as we head into the back half of the split.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'd love to chat a little bit more on that legend pick rate. We were kind of highlighting some of the off-meta picks, or maybe some people that are looking for a little more niche picks per se for their legend choices. So this is currently for the overarching Split 2 season in North America. You can see Seer still that mainstay even after that slight bit of nerf ability, 89% pick rate. Valk showing that important 74%. But this is where things are starting to change up a little bit. Bangalore, she's starting to get picked a little bit more. Even Watson starting to show up. We saw that happen in EMEA as well, but APAC North, Watson shows up. But then EMEA today, we see Alliance break out Ashe for the first time here in Pro League, and it worked so incredibly well. We think back to Split 1, it was Horizon, Seer, Valk. That was the mainstay. That was everything. And Valk had a 92% pick rate, so just a little bit lower here in Split 2, but still showing the prevalence. But Dia, I think that we are just about to get underway for match number 1.
Let's go! Match number 1 here in North America. It kicks off now, and as Randy stated before, we're going to be starting on Storm Point. A different look at the back half of the split and a chance for these teams to prove themselves in a very different way. Storm Point is notoriously difficult to manage, especially in that mid to late game where your rotations and how well you've set yourself up going into them really matter so much more. Storm Point is harsh and it is unforgiving. And it's time to find out what it has in store for these teams.
Yeah, and immediately what catches my eye is going to be the mill, where Dark Zero lands. They've got a ring console, they've got a survey beacon, and it's the hot zone. So you know the loot already in the mill, guaranteed by those center bins for the shields, is going to be buffed even more. And Rambo landing in the buildings just north of the mill, the 3 buildings. There's a trident there as well. So they're going to extend out their reach. But anytime we get kind of a center southern zone, I'm really excited and I'd love to dive deeper. And just like that, Dia, I'm looking towards Antenna. Wildcard Gaming, you know, they get picked up and now they're getting some zones.
Now, this is pretty nice for them, as an actual rotation out of Antenna and into a slightly better position should be post-haste. Not a lot of zones will pull into Antenna proper, and it's up to them to determine where they actually feel most comfortable playing. A lot of teams are going to opt into that Gale Station area. Gravity Cannon is also a decent option, but you want to stay as flexible as possible, and I do wonder what wildcard will end up prioritizing. For a team like Meat Lovers, however, who are a little bit further away from the action, they're going to have to make their way significantly further to the south as Noxious start things off. We talked about wanting to watch this squad, but now they've got a Bloodhound and a kill.
Honestly, look, we were talking earlier in EMEA when people were not running a scan character alongside Bangalore, but you come over to Noxious and I was like, yeah, maybe you'll see a Bloodhound in Ranked or Realm, but you don't really see Bloodhound too often in ALGS anymore. And Kubsky must have heard that or has been practicing with that, and I'm excited to see. So they're kicking off match day number 6 by getting at least 1 KP here. So Noxious wanting to show up. I mean, Avexis, they came in through that initial challenger circuit playing back when I last saw them. I believe it was alongside Detox as well as one another. They were kind of those former Gears of War pros that had tweeted out like, hey, you know, I'm going to start taking Apex Legends incredibly seriously. Now Avexis finding themselves on a team with Kubskis and Presley, and the other 2 are on Rise. It's just been a nice journey to see for them.
Certainly has, and taking one off of Native Gaming, it might have been the bear you don't really want to poke. They're very scary. Native have a lot of, I'll say, fighting potential in them, but with Klein removed, what will Bullet L and Prophet end up doing? Bullet L, by the way, it was his birthday yesterday, so might not have been the easiest start to the day for them, but happy birthday, Bullet L.
I mean, I could totally sing right now, Dia. I would love to sing for Bullet. But guys, if you don't know who Bullet is, you should. Out of originally the APAC South region, now joining Klein and Co. And it's been really fun to witness that. And especially if you think back on the history of Klein, they do typically land a little bit separate from the duo, extends out. And you can see that's just so easily why he was able to be capitalized upon. But let's touch base with FaZe on your screen right now. Frex, Snipe Down, Phony. I mean, they have just been so monumental. Granted, they did have a little bit of a lackluster performance the last time we saw them. It wasn't nearly as dominating as we had witnessed at the split to beginning, but it's okay. I mean, it's still consistent, and you can afford, when you've positioned yourself so highly in the series standings, that you can afford maybe a day that isn't as dominating.
Yeah, you have to be able to. In a battle royale, the biggest thing isn't even just avoiding days that perhaps are a little bit tougher, that do have you lower in the standings, but it's your ability to come back from them. Because battle royales are so high variance, you have to control for these variables as often as you can, and CLG trying to do that right now with a quick catalyst wall and rotate. They didn't have to get that aggressive. They didn't have to expend the ordnance or the ultimate, but CLG made the call to just to make sure that no one had sightlines on them and that they didn't run the risk of falling down. That is RNG mitigation right there, and that is one of the reasons we should be keeping our eyes on CLG.
Look, I would love to see something really nice pop out from CLG. We got Mamba Nano Shiny. Typically, we witness that caustic when it comes to World's Edge, and that is honestly one of my most favorite things. A lot of our teams electing to set up shop inside of Gale Station, which kind of alludes you to think that those left-hand buildings will be where that ending starts. And for the people to get in there early, it's going to be nice. But Hambino joining CCE for the first time in Split 2, so congratulations to them. Excited to see what they will do here today as they take that Trident for the rotation on the back end of Shipball.
Hambino joins the Pro League and immediately makes one of the riskiest rotations with the squad that you can have in Apex Legends. Tridents are a massive target, and the fact that CCE Uchinix find themselves in an actual tenable position by Shipball after all of that, incredibly impressive. Now, they do have a lot of the ring to look out on. We know for a fact that things are pulling a little bit further into the southeastern corner of the map over by Gale Station. But out of Shipball, you can actually put in a lot of work with all of the open space in front of you. Many squads have already rotated through, and 100 Thieves, Sentinels, Optic are all going to have to do there to get to the center of zone.
Yeah, I like the moving forward. They're kind of eliminating the piercing spikes in their way. Typically, there's a beacon and potentially crafting that they have the ability to get. But let's tune in with Dark Zero. This is the first time we're getting to witness Rambo joining this roster. Jen Burton himself breaking out that catalyst wall, giving the team a little bit of time to reset. They've got the shield advantage once you have that seer tactical information going out. Now they just need to capitalize upon it. And just like that, Team Diverge going to be eliminated, but it wasn't just a part of Dark Zero that had a hand in that. FaZe is in the mix too.
Yeah, there are plenty of teams looking up at this Gravity Cannon, and Dark Zero, for their debut with a new roster, have chosen a pretty darn risky spot to play. It's not the easiest to hold, as many a squad will continue trying to rotate in from the western side of the map, but Dark Zero do clear their backs pretty darn nicely to start, and Team Diverge, unfortunately, are the ones that really absorb most of that pressure. Gravity Cannon will mean that there's a little bit more cover for this squad, but with the catalyst wall already expended, Dark Zero do have to be worried about other squads trying to push up on them and take some areas away, because they don't have this defensive cooldown anymore.
Yeah, you see Jen Burton kind of extending out towards the front of the Gravity Cannon. They had already burned the cat wall, Dark Veil, so it takes about a little over 2 minutes to get that back, barring if they have any ultimate accelerants. But you're looking towards the building that FaZe and Glitch Energy are sharing, and you have to decide, do we stay here, or at what point do we make our move? Now, granted, it's going to depend on where that zone is going to be pulling, and I believe it's going to keep pulling further and further into Gale Station. So now it's all about pivoting. Yes, you do have this ledge that kind of lets you play it as a head peek, but to be fair, with as many Bangalores as we've been witnessing, yes, Zero on one as well can use that Rolling Thunder to help divert any pushes, but I feel like a building's just a little bit more comforting, especially if I have Catalyst in my legend composition.
For sure, more teams are going to be rotating in here as well, and that's just a matter of time. With 19 teams left, most of them haven't made their way in yet. Interestingly enough, we've got a lot of squads around the side of the map, like 100 Thieves, like Optic, that are actually playing pretty darn close to the edge of the zone, trying to hug it as it comes in and make the best use of the time while they've got it. For example, 100 Thieves actually up here will have a ring console to scan, making sure that they know where the next zone is pulling, something that the teams actually in the zone itself don't have access to.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. You can see that Optic is trying to mirror them in a sense as well. Barometer, having the ring console, having crafting. It's not a bad POI to go through as you're making your way over towards Gale Station, but it's going to be tough because they don't want to push the issue and go out in 19th place, and this could potentially be an isolated 3v3. They do have the knowledge that there is a team up there, so they're proceeding a little bit precariously, and I respect that, but they're sitting on triple purple. They have the economy that if they want to take this fight, they have the resources. You can see all the bat knowledge they have, 6 bats, and dropped is going up top now. So we can see trying to get that information, always checking with that heartbeat passive. Seems as if 100 Thieves used the beacon and left.
Now they'll be able to grab this as well, so Optic will actually spot 100 Thieves starting to rotate away, and 100 Thieves are going to try and capitalize on the gravity cannon ahead of them, it seems, making the best use of the ridge as they move up over through the spider caves. TSM, however, they're caught rotating through Jurassic, and their push has not gone unnoticed. They've got to take a fight right now up against Noxious.
You can see all of the resources coming down. It's going to be the Rolling Thunder for the hands of Noxious. Seer ult going out. Now Hal utilizing the high ground here, and they have a survey beacon that reps will be able to hit once they take this engagement. Now Noxious, you had asked, I'm curious to see how they're going to be performing today, but the issue with these large open spaces in Storm Point is that there are so many charge rifle Charlies or Chads out there, in your personal opinion, however you feel about the charge rifle, which can make this fight so incredibly challenging.
There's another big problem here, and it's defensive Bloodhound. Blood, really good, especially when you're getting aggressive, but when you're trapped inside a building, Seer is going to be better 9 times out of 10. TSM, however, don't seem too interested in taking this fight as a third party does start to show its face. Native rotating in here could actually be the thorn in the side of TSM that ultimately saves Noxious for a few moments more.
It's tough because they're denied that information there from the survey beacon. They're not going to have that map room scan. So once you go into your rotation towards Gale Station, not only that, you don't know what buildings are free, you don't know where teams are prioritizing, and you're running a controller legend list comp. So you're not going to be able to utilize any ring consoles should they be on your rotational patterns either. So they're making their way towards Antenna, which is going to be inhabited by another team as well. And now Optic, they're electing to essentially mirror CCE's rotation throughout Shipfall, and I love this. This is going to be the smart way to go. You want to take a Valk ultimate just to get on the other side of that team.
Now riddle me this, once we get to the other side, what's the plan for Optic Gaming? They don't have a whole lot of great spots to land, and this, I suppose, we'll have to do for now, but Skittle doesn't make it in. Saw is taking him out of the sky, and the rest of the team just turning tail and running as CCE go in for the kill.
Look, I was excited to see how CCE was going to be performing. Granted, Hambino first showing of the day for them, but no stranger to Apex comp. But unfortunately, Optic Gaming, who had such a strong commanding performance on the last matchup between A versus B, most of their performances were inside the top 5, are going to actually be potentially one of the first teams to go out here in map number 1.
Thank God that smoke exists, because otherwise, Sheeny would have been smoked. CCE Uchinix back off, knowing that there are now 3 teams looking at them, and another one shows up to the party. Looking at the kill feed, though, they're not the only ones in trouble. Having lost Saws, there are plenty of charge rifle, as we said, Chads or Charlies in the area, and Complexity look to capitalize, taking out Saws for the rest of the match, and now perhaps looking for a little more.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Complexity in Split 1, they were a major zone-heavy team rivaling Sentinels for one of the quickest rotating teams on that roster, or the docket for North America. But now they've been playing Edge, and led at the helm is going to be Monsoon. We got a chance to chat with him on the broadcast, and how excited he was coming off the back of a performance that they had. And now we look towards this. We had previously seen Rambo fall, but you can see that Dark Zero still over on the right side of your screen by the gravity cannon, able to get the res and the reset, but Lanimals in the meantime going to be completely eviscerated off screen by FaZe.
I want to see if we can take a look at the map here, because Lanimals actually put themselves in an interesting position. It'll have to wait, though, as Complexity find their own moves. That'll be in the picture-in-picture while we take a look at 100 Thieves trying to make the exact same rotation as Lanimals did moments before. They're right in front of NRG. FaZe are looking at them. Complexity find their kills on CCE Uchinix, and as the zone starts to close in, we're going to have Meat Lovers enter the party from the eastern side of the map into this zone of death right by the assault crate.
You know, this is really nice. Now you've kind of claimed the buildings in front of Shipfall. You have crafting available. Granted, you only have 43 seconds before that ring is going to be fully closed. So you are going to have to prioritize pushing in, and it's tough. You do have a little bit of a hill that's going to be available to you, but look at the names that are in front of you. You've got Dark Zero, you have TSM, a bunch of powerhouses are lying in wait, and meanwhile 100 Thieves has been taken out by Wildcard Shubi.
not a single person, not a single team that has Valk ulted into Gale Station has survived the landing tiff. It's been Lanimals, it's been 100 Thieves, and those are not nobodies. These are big squads that we know can find individual wins, can find full day wins, and now we've got even more squads starting to arrive. Sentinels land right on top of TSM!
Oh, you know Hal is absolutely losing it right now because that completely changes the dynamic of the engagement that they were previously having. Verholst going to fall, Black Hole coming out from the hands of Hal, trying to utilize the knockdowns to evade all of the ordinances coming their way, which is actually benefiting them. Reps has the gold shield, so can heal up a lot more quickly. They're going to go ahead and try to stick that res off. They should be able to reset. They do get Verholst back on their feet. That's exciting to see. And just the reset ability here and the openness of the area, just a couple bins and a fence for shields.
That's a Raven play right there. As soon as Verholst bites the dust, Hal throwing out the black hole to zone off teams. Well, Seer ult hits the ground. Defensive use of ultimate cooldowns. TSM managing to survive what for many teams would have been an impossible situation. And now it does get even harder as we get that next ring. Take a look at your mini-maps. Dark Zero, they find themselves in it. But TSM, Complexity, they are not. And Dark Zero should be able to look out at all of this and profit.
See, this is interesting because I look at Dark Zero's positioning and it's kind of giving me remnants of a zone that we had witnessed back in the day, back in London, and it was actually Gonberet that had that positioning, but they had really held off Alliance nicely. But the thing about Gonberet is they have Newcastle Watson in their legend composition, in which Dark Zero does not. They do have a catalyst that will have a Dark Veil available to them, and you can kind of segue that area off. So I'd be curious to see how they have planned to hold out TSM, Noxious, and the likes of other teams. So that's what you have to think about. And especially look at Complexity down there, hugging what little bit of the zone they can to try and get that Valk ult, which they are going to take. And Dia, you said any team that Valk ulted into Gale has not found success. So my heart goes out to them right now.
Yeah, let's hope Complexity can do it. Where so many others have failed, will they survive? Noxious, maybe on the ropes right now, don't look like they will. As a push comes in all the way from Antenna, no safe space left there, and AJC and Noxious will be simultaneously eliminated. TSM benefiting off of that, but now having to rotate straight into Dark Zero.
Yeah, they have 10 seconds. They're not able to reset, so you have to really prioritize dealing as much damage onto DZ as humanly possible because DZ is going to be getting shot in the back while trying to field off TSM, and I think this is going to be potentially the end for both Dark Zero and TSM. But let's see how Rambo, Zero, and Co are able to hold on, but it's actually going to be Jen Burton last alive for Dark Zero, forced to utilize the Dark Veil and reposition now, dealing so much damage. Meat Lovers has fallen, Drug Free has fallen, and we have an immense battle, and unfortunately they are going to fall, and it's going to be at the hands of McLovin, who looks to get into this.
Can they finally do it? They found a third party. They drop Verholst, but LTC gets shut down by Reps and Hal. TSM again on a sick reset up here and an incredible clutch to keep them alive in the face of LTC, who were on a rampage.
NRG falling in the midst as well. FaZe, Glitch Energy, CLG still living inside the buildings in Gale Station, but they're starting to have a little bit of issues here with the residents of these buildings. But I'd be curious to see. Let's jump into a listen-in with FaZe presented by WD Black.
Yes, full first floor. I can scan them all for you.
Is there a guy on our roof? Is there a guy on our roof? There is.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can someone watch this?
He keeps
watch this window?
He keeps dropping down though. He keeps dropping down though. It's the same team from below.
Okay.
But there's a team. There's a full team on this side. They have to walk up to rock. Okay.
Okay. I'm listening.
So there's a
They're
team
not
right
playing on
there.
roof. They're just playing the side.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he dropped back down. Listen, there's a team on cannon that has to slide down.
Yeah.
The door broke behind us.
Yeah.
I'm about to remove the 3x
Just
off
be
this
careful.
thing.
You should.
Listen, they can't swing our staircase. This team on the rock is looking. Okay.
Okay.
Snipe.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just
This one, the one outside, not the middle one.
I'm more so worried about this staircase to the north.
Yeah. No, they can swing that if they want to. So be careful of that.
I can throw a Q on you, Funny. Is that fine?
I think you should
Yeah,
have a Q over here.
that's good. I think you should throw it more to the right though, Frex.
Okay.
They can swing this door with Rampart.
I have it. My Q went away on this door. I'm just chilling.
All right, well, FaZe are showing what they're worried about as teams are forced to rotate into the buildings where GE and FaZe have been. TSM forced to fight on the roofs, and now I actually really respect that. If you can really find a lot of information, now barring none, as long as the Bangalores in this lobby have been eviscerated, you're going to be okay.
That's certainly true, but TSM do have to worry about the desperation from so many teams huddled in around them. Climbing on the roof is often a last-ditch effort for a lot of squads, and that'll be directly in the face of Hal Verhulst and Reps, who have been doing really well so far today. We know that FaZe right ahead of them are keeping tabs on everybody, but we haven't seen just yet is Wildcard on the opposite side of this building from TSM, playing off of the low ground. They've already found a way to third party on that low ground NRG and remove them from the lobby, but now they're playing the fence line, which is incredibly intelligent.
Good free cam shots showing where all the teams are taking up space. My biggest question is going to be on Wildcard. Reptar, Shubi, and Co are just on the left side of the fence here with Madness. And now I feel as if they're going to be biding their time, waiting to essentially push into a fight, maybe look for a good chance to 3P and fight for space on the inner building. But Glitch Energy has been holding on to their real estate for so long, with TSM kind of living on the rooftop. Now, when push comes to shove and this ring starts to pull, this is where things are going to get a little mixy.
It's do or die, and for many teams, it's unfortunately going to be both. Very little space in this last ring to survive, and it's a matter of when teams actually feel enough pressure to start leaving their buildings. TSM actually start vacating theirs in a weird way, swapping to the other rooftop, putting themselves right above Complexity, right above FaZe, and facing down the last couple members of both Glitch Energy and CLG. Wildcard controlling the defense really well. This is good. Out comes the Catalyst wall. This is good from TSM. As long as you can nade, keep this squad at bay. They've noticed Wildcard now, but can't do anything about it.
TSM still holding ultimate high ground, even calling in a mobile respawn beacon for a little bit of cover. Complexity on the inside with the ring at their back. They are going to be forced out this doorway, and now a Dark Veil going to be cutting perpendicular to Glitch Energy's Dark Veil, but unfortunately it's going to be Wildcard Gaming's that will last a little bit longer, and Verhulst taking to the skies and flying just over. They need to play this high ground as long as humanly possible, but they are going to be forced down into the mix of Complexity and FaZe. Deathbox is literally crossing through the mix, and now the chaos is about to ensue.
But yeah, look at what they're dropping into. They get as much height as possible. They wait as long as possible, but now they're falling straight on the wild card. Al whips out the flat line, picking up the knock, but in zone, he barely manages to survive his re-entry. Now, with Reptar on the other side, TSM claimed the entire fence that Wildcard previously held, and they claim game number 1.
All I can picture in my head as I'm watching Hal hip fire that flatline is Nicewig screaming, ew, because that was all I was thinking about. The amount of damage that he was putting out. He was literally just walking around with the hip fire, but utilizing the grav lift to take to the skies and let everyone fight it out beneath them was brilliant. And Rain Day, let's bring you back. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, you know, TSM, they seem pretty good at winning when somebody goes up to the heavens. I don't know if it was Hal this time or, you know, anything, but the horizon seems to be working out for them. And I think that's the biggest statement for TSM. I think I'm going to kick. Who am I kicking off this time? Is it Tiff? Is it Dia? All right, Tiff, take a break. I don't know. I kind of throw a coin in the air and decide when I jump back on here. But Tiff, take a break.
I feel like I just survived the culling, Rain Day. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, you know, that's comes with a job. That's all I got to say. It comes with a job. Dia,
I'm going to be real nice
scared?
this
Are you
cast.
still scared?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you're fine. You're fine. What I really do think, though, is that TSM have had a task ahead of them, and they're one of those dangerous teams that when they get their mindset on something, when they get that kind of those eyes locked into where they want to go and what they need to do to succeed, they pretty much do it. They have a history of succeeding, and so this is a scary start for teams. Again, it's still wide open, 5 games left to play, but TSM's got to be happy with that one.
I really appreciated the way that they approached this whole game as well. And it was risky at some points, especially that fight up against Dark Zero on the gravity cannon. But at so many other stages of the game, TSM were really in control. And honestly, using their cooldowns really effectively as well is a massive part of Apex Legends. This is unlike a lot of battle royales. Your abilities matter so much here, and it got them a lot of resets, a lot of safety, and it ultimately pushed out a lot of other squads from their positions of, I'll say, slightly more autonomy. Now, TSM do still start with a good time, but we've seen them win games before. They do have to keep this momentum going, and we saw a lot of other teams be right up there with them. Wildcard, notably, having a really intelligent approach to this game by Gale Station.
And a lot of Catalyst. I mean, this is way more Catalyst in-game than we saw until World's Edge, just maybe 1 or 2 games in terms of EMEA. And so already the meta a bit different, but TSM doing their own thing. And that is always what has been the kind of key for TSM to have success. They need to do their own thing. Let's watch back this final circle, though, from the TSM POV reps. Happy birthday, by the way, my man. He's coming up. Either had his birthday, it's now, or it is coming up. I know that for sure. TSM as well with Imperial Hal and Verholz taking this high ground really, really nicely and just working as a 3, holding hands, as we like to say it, together so that their damage to you and their positioning, they can never get isolated, and they just start to take this fight inch by inch.
Yeah, it was a really good time to use this gravity lift as well. We see a lot of Valkyries pull strats like this, but in the end game, every second counts, every second that you are out of the fight, and TSM had managed to keep themselves safe for so long. The fact that as they drop, they eliminate the majority of wildcard is super important, because as we talked about, that was the team that was in a slightly better position. They still ultimately finished second, 9 kills to their name, but 14 plus the 12 from placement for TSM is a great start for a team that, as we said, needs to perform towards the back half of the split.
Yeah, I also think it bodes really well for a team like FaZe and Complexity to be in that same position after game 1, because you can tell they're getting kills, you can tell they're in rhythm. That is a team who is deadly. 16, 11 points. I love this as well. Dark Zero, notably, when we started off this matchup 5 match days ago, they won this game. And then they went on to win the next game as well. That kind of shook up North America. Not this time around, though. It's TSM, Dark Zero in 9th. Let's head to the back half. And Dia, you could tell me what stands out to you the most here. A few big names on this back side of the 20.
Caster curse is real. I know, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Meat lovers, they go out before the top 10, but they'll have their time. I'm crossing my fingers. Sentinels, however, big surprise. So are Optic and 100 Thieves. We did talk actually specifically about 100 Thieves and Lambals, as they were trying to rotate in via Valkult to Gale Station. That'll work in a lot of spots on Stormpoint. It won't work in Gale Station.
Yeah, Optic, a team, you definitely have seen perform well. You want to see them drop if you're on the TSM side of things. That's really the key. Can you push up ahead of some teams that are ahead of you, have them have a bad day, have you have a great day? That would really reverse a lot of the damage that's been done so far with the slow start. All right, coming up, we've got game number 2. D and I will be on the cast. Let's get ready to see if TSM can go back to back, or if we'll see FaZe Complexity continue to light things up in North America. WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our North American debut of the back half of our Split 2. We've got 5 more match days left to play, and we came in with a lot of conversation. Dark Zero, Sharky going to inactive, Rambo taking his spot, relieving himself from the temporary retirement to perform with one of the winningest teams in the recent modern era of Apex Legends. And of course, TSM desperately needing to have a major top 3 level performance. They come out with a win. That was a heck of a start there, followed by FaZe and Complexity staying consistent as ever with those new rosters. We'll see if that can happen again in match number 2. We've switched over to Stormpoint, Dia, and that has given some freedom over to some of these teams to play a little bit bigger, a little wider. We've seen those catalyst walls make a big impact here. We'll see if it happens again as match 2 begins and the teams drop out of the dropship and head to their landing spots.
I mean, it looks like Catalyst is going to be pretty darn impactful once more, and I'm not looking at this and going that you should be picking up other defensive legends, because when we do go down to the low ground of Stormpoint, Catalyst gets such crazy value. This time around, we won't be heading to Gale Station. It's a little bit further to the north this time, so Wildcard again with a great rotation, plenty of time. FaZe as well included in this, and actually FaZe with the option to stick around their own POI should they want to, and start to farm up a slow rotation from there on. This does look increasingly like we're going towards Lagoon, however, and teams have got to be respecting that.
Yeah, Wildcard sitting pretty right now, and you gotta say that this is definitely something that you could take advantage of. You have a nice performance early on, and then you have a zone that pulls your way. This is pretty much one of the best starts you could hope for if you're FaZe or Wildcard, trying to keep pace here and win your day. Again, remember, these are teams that need to qualify for LAN. They've been to LAN with different squads. Snipedown joined us in London on the desk. Phony obviously was repping a separate squad there, and you saw on Space Station, Zanaya also being a part of that. So it's been a journey for a ton of these different teams. Correct, excuse me. And when it comes to FaZe, I think they've got what it takes. I don't know what it is, but the synergy that they've had has been a marvel to watch. I've been very excited to see a team, let alone a team that's kind of new with a bunch of these roster swaps, but perform so well and so easily so well. Yeah, that's the thing. Without a lot of frustration, without a lot of drama, a lot of hesitation, they've been putting the work in, and it showed.
I certainly agree, and I mean, Phony was one of the IGLs who took the time out of his day, spoke to us at the start of the split, and Team Diverge, I'm just going to hold, as they might actually be finding a squad wipe here. That's drug-free, absolutely gone, and really good props to Team Diverge for finding that wipe really early on. But to the point of FaZe, we're a team that took time, talked to us early in the split, and I think that some of that magic that you're talking about, Rain Day, can be encapsulated in the way that Phony has approached IGLing the team. He knows how much power an IGL can have over a squad, and really wants to give a chance for his individual players to shine. So he lets them make a lot of calls themselves, finds opportunities to make the best use of their individual instincts, especially Snipedown's aggression, and he's been really vocal about wanting to support the squad. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
Well, that's exactly what you have in store this afternoon. It's a nice Sunday for those joining us across the world, across the globe. We highlighted what's been going on around the world in APAC North, South, South America. We've seen all of our regions take hold, and EMEA had their showcase earlier today as they started play in the first half of our broadcast. But now it's North America's turn. A little fight over by Armory, trying to see if they can pop open those hatches and find an answer. They certainly did. Kubsky falls just like that to Prophet in that R99 that was buffed this season. Oh boy, it makes a difference having a few more bullets in the mag. And you can see Prophet putting them to good use. That'll be a team wipe for Noxious as Native Gaming turns on the heat and picks up 3.
That SMG spray is burned into my retinas as the end of a journey. Native Gaming, we said it in game 1, got poked. Noxious took out one of their members, took out Klain, and Klain is angry. Klain isn't angry. He is an emotional player. And the thing is that he only gets better the angrier he gets. He's like the Hulk of Apex Legends, and he comes back to bite Noxious hard.
Hopefully he doesn't have as big a hitbox as the whole have as well. Tends to be a lessening in your win percentage when that does happen. But of course, Dark Zero, no hitboxes exposed now. They've been under duress, just slightly. 4 points to their name, sitting in 8th place. It's not a bad game. It's one of those, we got by. 4 points each bad game. That's okay. Puts us in the mix. You want to aim for 6 to 7 on a bad game in my eyes, because that puts you around 18, 20 when you're heading into the next map, and you could do a lot of work with that. But Jen Burton, Rambo, and Zero. Zero in the conversation for best IGL up until Hal and TSM with Verhulst and Reps took that trophy and cemented their place as the #1. But this season has opened the door right back up again. And Zero with now a new squad to command. What can he do with the likes of Rambo, who Dia, as you've watched and we've all watched in the league, has some of the most, I would say, snowball potential as a fragger that we have seen in the ALGS.
Unquestionably. It's really weird, Rainday, that we're sitting here with a squad that has arguably one of the best IGLs in the world, and I would say more easily argued 2 of the best controller players in the world. Like, how wild is it that we're seeing basically an all-star team just form before our eyes, and yet Dark Zero still managed to be credited with more of their accomplishments being from the championships that they've won previously. It's ludicrous that we're talking about a 2-time international competition winner with the best in each of their respective roles, and we're going, yeah, well, they might win this game. Like, well, what is that?
Because it's the same thing that happens in traditional sports, where you try to make a super team and combine 3 players who are all so good that inevitably not everyone, unless you find that rhythm and you mesh personality-wise and style-wise, gets to do what they would do if they were the star of their team. They don't get to have that same level of performance because they've got to work as a whole. And some people are not good at that. And you've seen many teams where they've combined 3 or 4 stars and the team has just not done well, had a huge payroll, and gone back to business. But I think in the case of Dark Zero, why I'm hopeful is because they're so committed. They're in many ways a quieter version of the same tenacity of a team like TSM, where they have that will to win. They never believe they're out of it. They never believe they're second best, yet they don't overstate it. They maybe don't have the same level of headlines. And to add a guy like Rambo, who's hungry, who's humble, and also now has the support of his family to be on this journey, realizing the opportunity that it is, I am hopeful that they can put it all together. Although, yeah, there's still hesitation. I still have to see it happen. And it's only 1 game by. I think we got plenty of games now today to see if they're going to make it work.
We certainly do, and they found themselves a pretty decent position as well, holding the choke right as you have to leave Antenna. We know 100 Thieves and Complexity are going to be in that position. Taking a look at the map, it looks like Meat Lovers may very soon find themselves in a similar spot, but having to move out of Antenna, going to be really difficult, not just for the 100 Thieves and Complexities of the world, but I'd say equally for teams like Dark Zero and Glitch Energy, who have to coexist with each other for the time being. Lanimals, another Valgold, hopefully a better one this time, will put them actually pretty darn close to Sentinels if they're not careful.
As you can see, all of the lobby, except for TSM and Meat Lovers, have found their way into what will be the next zone. Far, far away to the right, it's starting to get very contested. And as you can see, Albreleli and squad on the rampart, taking a page out of Alliance's book, who pioneered this throughout the ALGS. In the first match day, they won a game from there, placed, I believe, 3rd place overall. Now Albreleli, as a player, probably as keen on it from the beginning, but seeing it put to good use here. What can they do with Naughty, with Lou? Journeyman, you could say, in this space, but not really. They've been successful in almost everything that they've done. Any team they've touched has been a dangerous team. Can they put it together as a trio? I certainly have my faith in them.
And they get a technical spot in ring, which is already really nice. Easier to hold because of this rampart. And as we're thinking about rampart in the meta, I can't help but really give props to Albreleli, not just for being willing to pull out the legend, but when I'm thinking about best ramparts that we've seen so far, Albreleli, He's got some good cover. He plays really aggressively. The best part about Abraleli on Rampart is his Sheila. And if you can use Sheila effectively, you can wipe the floor in North America.
Yeah, there's multiple reasons why people have liked it. I mean, Rampart Sheila was originally adopted as, in the words of Hockey's, because this is the team that I watched so much perform at such a high level with it, to counter the Catalyst, but also provide some type of pressure defensively and take advantage of what Rampart can bring in these moments where you've got a skyward dive, you've got to stabilize in a ring, you're not playing in zone early enough, and you can use those walls to kind of just buy time and take bullets. But the Sheila doing well at destroying not only those buildings, as it destroys doors that the Rampart might have, the Catalyst might have reinforced, but also her piercing spikes, her Q, can get destroyed very quickly with the Sheila as well. And I even heard that, you just spray and pray throughout the Catalyst wall, the Dark Veil, and you're more than likely to hit a shot because you're shooting at such a high rate with so many bullets. So there's a lot of reasons technically that she's been brought in, but overall, Dia, maybe just a character that's been slept on, that didn't have a strong release, and now players are starting to finally realize she can fit in a couple of puzzles that are quite valuable here in the ALGS.
We talked about at the top of the show, but Ashe has been getting a really similar treatment recently. People trying this legend out, seeing how it works up against the meta that's developed right now, and constantly innovating in Apex Legends to try and find your own competitive edge. For Sentinels and TSM, engaged in a bit of long-range poke, it's been another game where Sentinels specifically have to adapt. They haven't been able to play zone in the same way as they'd like to on smaller maps like World's Edge, and instead are having to sit around the edge of the map and again rotate towards the south next ring.
A lot of setup play right now. Mostly all of the teams. Bless you, my friend. It is allergy season. I do
Thank you.
know a little bit about the pain of that. Anyone in the chat who's experienced that, we're all just getting through it. But much different in terms of the actual competition these players are going through. Running out of time. Team Diverge, Ajna, GS Bird, Sleepy Panda, Meat Lovers also in zone, but making it out very quickly. Running the crypto, notably, as you mentioned, not a lot of teams in North America opting for that choice. Tech still probably aiming for that purple shield, but in a decent spot on the edge here. And they're going to have the reconnaissance with the drone. They can have an EMP push if they want to get aggressive. And Zenu may have that skyward dive available too if things get rough, but they've still got a minute to go before that starts to happen.
I'm wondering what they'll choose to do here. I mean, specifically, if you are Meat Lovers, so much of your identity has been fighting so far this split. You've got Team Diverge on one side, CCE, Uchinix on the other, but a push does seem inevitable, if not the final one. That Valcolt, very scary as potential, but perhaps not so scary for Sentinels. It does get them out of the sightlines of TSM. It's a nicely timed ultimate as well, and we'll see how Sentinels end up surviving over the next couple of seconds, while TSM have to rotate in, likely on foot, lest they want to take the same journey in. We do have the tunnel just to the north of Launchpad that's actually pretty nicely available if TSM do want to slot themselves in there.
Let's go there.
I got a question for you, Dia, because Horizon has been something that, for me, as we have a little bit of this downtime before round 3 kicks off and the action goes, I've been puzzled at. I think TSM originally tried to experiment with this new Season 16. They tried introducing the Catalyst. They went into the Horizon. They messed with the Bangalore. None of it seemed to work well for them. And what got them back in their rhythm was the exact style of team they used to win LAN. Do you think that this is something they can carry with them through the next 5 games, through the next seasons, or are they eventually gonna have to get off of this? I'm curious what your thoughts are on if this is just a temporary or maybe an actual real solution for them in terms of performing at their best.
It's definitely, from my perspective, a band-aid for TSM. Okay. The Horizon is something that works. It works well for them, but TSM aren't playing in a way that makes the best use of Horizon. They just happen to be a team that can have very mechanically talented players, like how able to make use of Horizon, able to change the course of fights in a second. But this fight, it's changed perhaps for the worst, as Snipedown got a nice laser on Verhulst as he hits the ground. We'll see if they're able to get him back into the game, as nobody seems too keen to push in Launchpad.
Wow, wild card and NRG. Oh, it's Snipedown. FaZe. Snipedown gets a little too aggressive. Could this spell demise for FaZe? Frex can't quite push behind the shield. You know he wants to, though, but the work may be done from some of these nades flying in from all around. Wild card FaZe, TSM, NRG, all in the mix in this small circle, vying for that spot that will win them the game. Frex, is he going to push on his own? He is, but he runs into another full team. This could be terrible for FaZe, but they have done enough to make it terrible for TSM. That's for sure. They win that ultimate fight, but can Frex survive by himself?
Popping around on these knockdown shields. It is only white in front of him, but it's just Frex. No phony left. I believe there was a shield swap on the other side, and Frex has to crack the red. He does! LTC go down! But can FaZe survive? This aggressive push that we talked about earlier may very well have been their doom. Wildcard are keeping squads at bay. NRG hoping to push now, but Frex is constantly dipping and diving, and it may just be FaZe surviving.
And I cannot believe it. They have somehow made it out alive. 3 resets for Frex, and he gets sniped down back up. The push ended up being worth it. Although, will it be worth it in the long run? We'll have to see. They have lost one, and they will be going into this final zone without Phony. But they have taken down TSM, they've taken down LTC, and they have survived the onslaughts. And my God, the focus of attentions. Talk about how do you have more attention focused on you than the multiple seer Qs that hit them. Somehow they make it out. Great stuff from FaZe.
Incredible. They managed to survive that. Not very many teams would, but it is that faith in each other that really keeps them ahead of the curve. Zone starting to close, however, and this mass exodus is going to happen in Antenna. Meat lovers take to the sky as Skirwy bites the dust. Dark Zero going to have to put this one in, as Zero does have the smokes from this Bangalore to make the best use as they're forced to exit. Squad in front of them, however, causing some problems, and this is a really heads-up Seer ult to make sure that Dark Zero can push this team out.
Tons of damage. Zero timing is perfect. He takes a little bit of zone damage. 2 ticks, 3 ticks. That's way more than Zero wanted to take here. He's got to find some bit of respite. Maybe a shield swap. No, he gets taken down, and that is Dark Zero going out. It felt like they were going to be able to make it work, but it's Bane and Glitch Energy who play spoiler to that. They get eliminated as well here from Klain, so they have stopped all of the teams sliding down from the upper side of the map to getting into this zone, and an exhibit showcasing the true chaos happening here. 3 teams, Native, Orioles over here, Goat FPS, and Karma fighting each other. It's AJC on that left side, seeing if they can go ahead and aggress on Native, which they're trying to do, but they get taken out in the back.
We knew it was going to be tough for these squads, and Native still managing to survive through this. Do take out AJC. It's a nice clutch for them and a quick revive. Will the focus of attention come in as aggressive Seer ults certainly do? CC Uchinix wanted to come around the back, but they pull away, not wanting to risk their game to eliminate just one more squad, instead giving Native the chance to reset. CC Uchinix, play defensively, play for this next ring as it pulls ever closer in towards Launchpad.
Keep your eyes on this one. Bullet's got a lot of work to do and not enough bullets to do it. Native goes out. Optic Gaming back in the mix. A full 3. They are looking primed to do something in this late game circle, especially with a team in front of them and nobody to their back. It's just a matter of if they can make that rotation to the south. And if they're able to do it, I would bet my money on them. However, let's remember, we still got Wildcard. We still got Lanimals. We still got Meat Lovers. We still got NRG right outside of the center of Launchpad. FaZe, snipe down Frex, and Phony also back alive as a trio on the high ground. So this game is anything but one for any team, but Optic Gaming trying to get rid of the team in their sights first, and it's all Nox pushing ahead.
Ring starting to close and things are looking tough. Nox so close to going down there, gets out just in time, but FaZe and Wildcard both get taken out. Optic need to control the outside of the ring. They have to contest for the very tip of Launchpad right now, but they cannot expose their backs. CCE must die for Optic to survive.
And this is the key. This is what Optic needed. Clear out the team in front. Now they push forward. This should be a winning opportunity for Optic, but they've got to play it well. They've got to cross this space if they want to approach this fight from any other angle but from long ways forward. We'll have to wait and see. Nox also has that Catalyst wall. Dark Veil will play an impact in this fight. We just don't know for which side and for how. Skittle Cakes. Oh, a Demon from long range with the Nemesis. He's got that wound up. NRG Sweet staying alive as best he can. Something Sweet is so good at. And I think he's playing around a shield too. He might be able to get a res. Might be 2 players. Yes, 2 from NRG down. So if Sweet is able to pull this off, that would be a historic comeback. Meat Lovers on the backside of this. Dia, this is setting up for some star-studded finish.
They are making really good use of the meager cover that they have so far. CLG up on high ground are starting to harass as well. And NRG's lease on life is expiring. Optic thoroughly in control of this game so far, as they've got almost no one to contend with, but Bangalore smokes do make this a little bit more difficult. With the Volt, with the Digi threat, Optic should be able to win this game, but it is going to take a concerted effort against 2 very intelligent squads. Meat Lovers still have the Crypto Ultimate. They've got smokes to cover their exits, but CLG may choose to go on them.
They got this exactly like they wanted it. They both had long-range weapons, Skittle Cakes and Noct, a G7 and a long bow back in the hands of Skittle Cakes, and dropped, leading the charge here, taking the closest head peek. Nano and CLG and Malice Mamba shiny as well against Meat Lovers and Optic. It's 3 teams going at it, trying to get a W, put themselves in a position to win this match day. CLG getting pressure already. Meat Lovers made the push. It's Optic coming in to clean up CLG. This should be a simple W as Optic Gaming take the win here in game 2. Who said Optic went anywhere? They are back in North America.
Cleanest win of their lives. That was such a good way to close it out. And of course, for the 2 teams trapped on the other side, I'd say for the 3 teams trapped on the other side, it didn't look particularly fun, but Tiff, it must have been fun to watch.
Look, it's always fun for me, especially when one of my teams to watch completely dominates the field. They played that game to perfection, just hanging on the outskirts of kind of that finger at launch pad, just waiting for those teams to essentially kind of fight amongst themselves, and being patient pays off. And honestly, they had to have a bounce back game, especially after map number 1's performance. So GG's Optic.
Tiff, I will say you're making some good predictions today. Things are working out in your favor. I don't know how this is happening so consistently, so well. There must be something you know. In fact, I know there's something you know. You watch these teams a lot and you study the game. What is it about Optic that gave you the confidence today to pay attention to them? Was it where they were coming into this that they needed results? Or you just like the way that they're playing?
I'm excited to see, Dropped is essentially taking the position that Duplex once had. And I had watched a lot of Drop streams prior, and just hearing the way that he communicates and has a lot of those call outs and the way that he would play. And granted, now Optic doesn't really stream a whole lot of their perspectives here, especially during ALGS days. And I know a lot of their fans are like, gosh, with Command Center, without it, we don't really get to see a whole lot of Optic. So I was glad we got to see a lot of them on that main broadcast, because, maybe more importantly, I'd love to see more Optic streams and developing around that fan base, because so many people love and support them. Me in particular, as well as I know a lot of you guys as well. So it's just been really fun to see how they've been meshing together, and to improve upon their last performance in match day. I believe it was number 4, A versus B. They didn't actually get a map win. So to kick things off a rather lackluster game 1, to double down and bring it back with that win, now it's only a matter of what they can do now that they have a match win.
All right, well, our highlights are coming up here for game number 2. I casted over it. So did you, Dia. Tiff, you watch. We'll get your thoughts in a second. But Dia, obviously us having an intimate view and discussion around this game, what stood out to you as we kind of walk through the stages of this match?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the different way that it played out this time around. My favorite thing about Stormpoint is how varied our end zones are. And so as we got teams filing in through the rest of the map, it turned into a game of choke points more specifically than anything, and it was my favorite thing to watch. We talked about the Dark Zero glitch energy conundrum as they had to leave Antenna, and we saw so many teams fall because of that. Sentinels tried to rotate their own way in, surpassing all of this with Valkults, but as is so often the case, Stormpoint's mid-game is a torturous one. If you are not in a good position coming up on that round 3, it is really tough to make it work, and zones like this exemplify it more than anything.
And this is kind of that risky play that ended up working out well for FaZe, because this spot right here, clearing out TSM, somehow managing it, ended up getting them, I believe, a top 5, top 6. And, you know, for TSM, they went out in 16th place. So you got to say that aggression really, really worked out for them. This one, too, though, kind of kicked off a fight that would end up being around the Optic fight. These teams would kind of battle around. Optic would come in late, and then we would end up finding the Optic clearing out their front side and taking that long way down the road, and it would just work out for them so well. Lanimals, Naughty having some good performances, but, you know, really being equipped for the situation. Longbow, G7 Scout, Optic did so much damage leading up to this. By the time they got to CLG, it was a simple cleanup, and that was that. Meat Lovers as well went trying to get second place, could not do it. Props to CLG for holding off, but Optic Gaming, they were RW. And that stands for winner. Tiff, take a look at this final circle. Walk us through Optic's move here.
Yeah, we had a nice lot of free cam shots that were showing the positioning in particular of Optic Gaming. Noct holding this with that Skull Piercer longbow, able to deal a lot of damage. And Skittlecakes and Dropped were kind of just positioning, trying to take up as much space in this end game scenario, trying to get good LOSs on the teams ahead of them. Because if you are going to force Meat and CLG to kind of int upon each other, because they have to, they're going to collapse, and that gives Optic that nice 3P to that engagement. But you would also like to try and pick up as many KP as possible. Maybe you can grab it down here or there, because for right now, in this in particular instance, those teams were so healthy until they were forced to go into each other, and Mamba last alive. Optic playing it safe and smart, and then really just dealing that initial last damage towards the last member of CLG. And it was just really nicely played in some of these games. You have to think Optic, they land down Beast if I'm not mistaken. So their journey to get over to Launchpad and fight through all of the teams, and especially those rotations, very challenging. So a good 20-point game out of them.
I'd also say I'm pretty impressed with Native Gaming in 9th place, getting 11 points. That puts them in 4th overall in terms of total points. That's a solid game, and they did it mostly with the kills. Meat Lovers, CLG, they battled for it. Meat Lovers obviously would have been in the reverse situation had they beat CLG. CLG held strong, got 3 of the 4 kills there, and took a 13-point second place finish. And of course, NRG, CCE, UCX rounding out our top 5 as we head to the back half of R20. And Dia, Complexity having a great game, then having a nothing game. TSM having a win, then having a big 0.
An unfortunate way for it to go, but it was the challenge posed to them, and fair enough. It's not always going to come up aces for TSM. Sentinels actually dropping right alongside them, and so for both of these teams, a lot to look forward to. Perhaps Noxious, as we talked about, having poked the bear, suffer rightly, and I'm still looking for teams like Team Diverge and 100 Thieves to actually have their own showing, because these are squads that we've often seen in places in the final circle that I think just need a lucky break, especially on Stormpoint. Once we transition over to World's Edge, though, very different story.
Well, as we head into our series results after 2, it is TSM on top with Wildcard and FaZe tied for 2nd place. Optic Gaming right behind them, and CLG, after a 2nd place finish in game number 2, takes 5th overall. NRG, Meat Lovers, Complexity, and Native Gaming with Lanimals rounding out the top 10. Tiff, reactions to this after 2, what you expected, what's the surprise if there is one?
I wish I could say I was really surprised about TSM having a rather challenging mid game in game number 2 based upon prior match day performances. TSM will start off so strong, get a map win, and then immediately go out in that kind of early mid game scenario. But I know they're going to bounce back just fine. So TSM fans out there, have no fear. But Native Gaming, 11 points on the board just on the inside of that top 10. They got 9 eliminations in the last match. So that was a really strong performance for them. But Dark Zero still in 14th place, 100 Thieves as well, and then Sentinels having a little bit of challenge. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see throughout the duration of our 4 maps that we have left today, but a lot of questions that still need to be answered for me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these high scores, nothing wrong with them. If you repeat them on the other side, you're staring at 52. Now heading into our final game, maybe 62-70 if you can keep this pace up. So good stuff overall after 2 from the teams in North America. But who is going to stand out? It's got to be taken. It won't be given. As we head into the final match of Stormpoint, before we switch over to World's Edge, let's send it over to Spider Tiff and Dia to get us underway.
Let's do this, Dia. I'm so excited to see what we have to see here on our last match of the day on World's Edge. We had so much fun on World's Edge in EMEA and then carrying it over to North America. My question stands. What is going to happen here? We are nearing the regional finals, split 2 playoffs. All of these teams have to stand up and give a performance to boot. I know I saw a lot of TSM fans on the timeline while I was kind of in the waiting room on match number 2, and we were talking about their reset specifically in that positioning when they were fighting their way into zone on map number 1, and even it caught the attention of a lot of the coaches from the EMEA teams. You know, Alex from J-Lings was saying that was an absolute masterclass, and now I'm looking forward to seeing some more artwork here in map number 3.
When teams like I'm going to rephrase that. When we get legacy teams winning, so often it's because of that experience and because they understand the game fundamentally at a very high level, and that felt like the first game very much so. The end game of game number 2 actually got that repeated by Optic, and the fact that we are getting these very clean end zones, at least from the winner's perspective, does speak volumes about the talent that we have in North America. And it looks like, Tiff, taking a look at the ring, we get to run this but one back again as we pull further into the southeastern side of the map. Could go Antenna, could go Shipfall, could go even Fish Farms with how south this is.
When you say Fish Farms, and we're going to run it back. FaZe once again getting gifted another zone. They have the ring console information there at Launchpad, so they'll be able to utilize that. And then they also got gifted a crafter. So we look towards other teams and see like what has been happening for them. CLG over in Stormcatcher have crafting, have ring console. LAN coming in from Lightning Rod are going to be gifted with some information as well. But TSM, the wall, looking a little barren over there. They're going to have to rely on that one lone survey beacon on the outskirts in between High Point.
Yeah, I really like the way that squads that do land over by wall, High Point, Lightning Rod can rotate into zones like this as well. You talk about the scan that they've got, and they can make use of basically 3, maybe even 4 POIs on their way in. The fact that both Thunderwatch and Stormcatcher get a ring console is disgusting, because it means that so many of those squads will have opportunities, mixed opportunities, to pick up the information on next ring, where a lot of them perhaps were missing that info coming out of game 1. Sentinels should have already gotten their scan over at High Point, and as they move further down the map, we'll have teams on the opposite side like Optic that have to rotate through Mill to get a peek at zone 2.
Optic Gaming sitting on 2 blues and a purple. Down Beast known for having decent amounts of loot, but I saw Noct earlier ping a hammer point, and I'd be really curious to see, is someone running a Mozambique or a P2020 as their secondary with hammer point rounds? Because that's just absolutely disgusting in my line of sight. Like P2020 or the Mozambique with hammer points hits so hard, especially once that shield has already been cracked.
Oh, it's so good. And this, hey, looking pretty good as well. FaZe on a quick move out from Launchpad, get the zone scan and yeet themselves out of their POI straight onto the Mirage à Trois, picking up the initial kill. It's a good start for a squad that does need a little bit more wind under their sails, especially after last game where they survived for an admirable amount of time, but in their own POI did not place nearly as high as they wanted to.
Love when the party gets started here on Mirage à Trois. Double Seer ults going out, and it's going to be Noxious taking on Native once again. Curious to see how they're going to run that back, but it looks like one member is going to yeet out of the cannon. Can the rest survive? Native, they had picked up so many eliminations in map number 2, and I know they're looking to do the same here. Bullet wanting to get off that white shield, maybe just shy of damage to make that happen. 66 needed, but able to pick up some information, and Glitch Energy falling to complexity off screen as well.
God, I am staying off of Apex after today's match just because I'm scared of what Klein is going to do in ranked. The man is so upset right now, and we might have a few other squads getting upset simultaneously. That's a lot of damage pumped straight into a Trident, where clearly we've already had some blood spilled. LTC lost out, and as a result had to skedaddle out of there.
CLG also falling a little bit early, so that's unfortunate. We saw them have a decent performance in map number 2, but Complexity seems to enjoy rotating throughout Shipfall, and they're going to have the loot to boot, already picking up 3 KP. And you know, I can only imagine what's going to happen if Monsoon keeps like that momentum moving forward. We're going to have the Monsoon that reaches final form that's just so exciting and very joyous here for them. But a lot of those teams making their way and taking the call saying, hey, it's going to be potentially that fish farms area. So they want to get good prio over there. 100 Thieves, they're going to have their journey cut out for them alongside Dark Zero as well. You think they're going to the mill, but I'd be curious to see TSM's rotational pattern and where they specifically choose to get that ring information. But Sentinels 20th place currently, losing out on Keon. This is going to be tough.
Wondering if that's defensive or offensive. Seer ult from RKN is, like you said, Keon needing to get back into the game, especially after being felled by Lanimals. Didn't see the Sheila be pulled out last game, but they had a decent position so far and have themselves yet another one this time around. Playing the outside of Launchpad leading into Fish Farms is a really underrated place to play, and it's the perfect spot for Lanimals to work from since they drop Lightning Rod, get to do that armory if they want, and then send themselves straight down to the beach.
Just sad seeing a Sentinels without Rambo. Now Zenal's got to have his work cut out for him. Rambo was doing a lot of the fragging on that team, and Keon now going to have to step up. Archeon, that IGL of the roster, so really having to find that final form. Big question mark here on the Sentinels roster. It's just interesting to see. I would love to see them back on land, but they have their work cut out for them. A triple take to boot in the hands of Keon, now playing Valk, but they're just going to hang out inside his zone right now. I don't blame him.
You know, you bring up an interesting point there, and I'm going to expand on it a bit because Sentinels are one of our rosters where plug and play is the least simple. They have one of the most specific game plans of anybody in the ALGS Pro League here in North America. They do not loot. Sentinels are notorious for having white shields in the middle of zone, and picking up a new third, as you say, it's really difficult to slot into a game plan like that. No matter how well polished it is, working with very few resources doesn't come easily to a lot of Apex players. And on the Sentinels roster, when you're being IGL'd by the likes of RKN, there's also very little room for error with game plans like that. So as you talk about, we are going to see the growth arc over the course of today, but it is a difficult one and one that we need to respect as commentators, as audience members of the Apex Legends Global Series. Now, Optic Gaming, their Valk ult, perhaps a little bit less easy to rationalize as they do end up going down. Just the one, however, and it should be a pickup that is possible for at least a single member. In the meanwhile, FaZe happily farming up with the charge rifle up top.
Dia, I'm sitting here cringing a little bit. Every time I see a Valk ult, you see the laser beams just pew-pewing towards the team that is flying in. And honestly, I don't want to say it, but the charge rifle's a little cringe unless it's in your hands. Then you're feeling a little confident with it because it's so viable to level up those Evo shields. And that's exactly what you see Frex is doing right here. Immediately able to get that blue to a purple while burning through the teams around them's utility for their health. And it's tough, right? But it is definitely prioritized. We see a lot of charge rifle usage in Ranked, in Realm, in ALGS. I just don't think it's going anywhere.
No, not at all. It's a staple, certainly, when you are playing at these long ranges with how much damage you're able to deal. But what I really like about the sniper meta that we're getting in the Apex Legends Global Series is that people do opt for things like the Skull Piercer longbow at times, and even the Sentinel that you have the ability to charge with the shield batteries. Every sniper has its niche, and charge rifle is by far the most consistent. That's why you see it prioritized so often here. But when we think about bang for your buck, things like the longbow and the Sentinel do really start to show up big in terms of how quickly they can change a team's game.
I think it's all about the comfortability that you have with that sniper, and each one has the different benefits. The longbow, you can fire it off a lot more quickly. If you charge up the sentinel, a headshot's going to be 156, depending on which kind of helmet you have on your body to help deflect some of the damage. But it's so powerful. But the charge rifle, you just need to find a 2x4, a 3x, or maybe even a bruiser and a decent stock, and you're going to be so incredibly accurate, especially if you put it in the hands of a controller player. You know, that 2x4 scope will be able to maximize a little bit of the aim assist that you can get from a controller, and that's typically what we see here.
It's working really well for a lot of our squads. NRG even picking it up, despite the fact that they really haven't been skirmishing with anyone yet. It's just in preparation for a little later on into the game. The zone has continued to pull us further south and into fish farms. So we are going to be getting yet another very different zone, as Gale Station plays so differently from Launchpad and then fish farms. When we stick to the southeastern side of this map, one thing remains true, and that is that getting into zone late, unlike when we're talking about Mill, is very, very difficult. And NRG, they're going to be dealing with that. So is Native, who are approaching from Lagoon right now. Even 100 Thieves and Lanimals, who are sat all the way out in the eastern beach, just vibing until their time to really play the game, are going to have a world of hurt ahead of them when we start focusing around this Mirage à Trois.
Production gave us a little bit of an insight behind the scenes of what's in the crafting rotation. Skull Piercer being that could be behind a lot of the longbow that we've been seeing, and we had some wingman in the earlier EMEA broadcast where they pretty much all had Skull Piercers, and I was just thinking to myself, what is the luck? Nah, it's just in the crafting rotation. But Team Diverge, relegated to a solo, does seem to have at least one of the banners available to them in 24 seconds before some more smokes start to charge up, and we get a good closer look of where that next zone is pulling, and FaZe called it impeccably well, leaving Launchpad early on to start the party, and now still alive. 17 squads remaining though, so fish farms can get a little spicy.
It's just phony for you. The man has been IGLing for a very long time, and there's a reason why this FaZe roster was so hyped up. Res actually feasible for Team Diverge if they want to try and go for this. 100 Thieves are in the area, and it's a very risky push that they'd have to make to actually get back into zone with the problems that we've already seen ever present, as only Bangalore with the smokes is able to avoid the charge rifle momentarily. They're going to go for this, and we'll find out how much longer Team Diverge can last. Top 17 so far, but you want to make it through at least 2 more squads before any placement points start rolling in.
I love the ability for Team Diverge to start regaining, but you have to think that's going to call to the tension of all the teams that are in your nearby vicinity, and your rotation outwards is going to be very much open. But NRG electing to take that Valkyrie ultimate a little bit further into fish farms, and they're going to play the pools underneath. They're going to lose out on Nathan, but no worries here. Oh, just kidding. He gets fully finished, so that's going to be unfortunate for them, because trying to get him back up in fish farms will be rather challenging. You can see there's 2 respawn beacons available to them. I don't see a Moby in the hands of Sweet, but he does have a charge rifle, so maybe can find some good damage outwards to be able to allow them to get a reset.
The nice thing for Noxious is that at the very least, Presley can't push them either. And when you do jump into these little ponds that we've got all around fish farms, the actual fish farms themselves, you are worried about other squads jumping on you. 100 Thieves actually have to be very worried as they put themselves right next to a building. But FaZe are doing so much to keep everyone honest, and honestly put the hurt on them quite a bit. I am really curious to see, once this game finishes, what the damage numbers are like on FaZe, who have been sniping to their heart's content from up top.
Snipe down, living up to the name Snipe, you know. But I mean, Presley's finding themselves rather a bit medically challenged, because there is no health. You can see that he has not regens the white meds, and probably because he has literally nothing available to them. Drug free, trying to enact some damage with the ordnance. Arcstar is going out, but you want to make sure that you mitigate the usage of that, because you want to have as many ordnance as possible going in towards that end game. But able to level up to a purple with some nice shots from the scout, that gives you that mid-range availability to them. And having this building is nice for drug free, but TSM working to get into that next zone as well. Hal on the charge rifle themselves, but gonna get poked and prodded, forced to reassess. And you look at their economy, only has 1 bat to boot, and it's going to be used up here.
Not a great position to be in. Very little cover for TSM as teams start to file in around them. Native landing right next door. CCE on the other side, and Native are starting to push up. Clayton's getting too close to comfort, and Hal goes straight over the rock.
Verhulst going to fall, but this is no stranger to what we saw happen in map number 1. But the only difference here is Hal's going to fall as well. Reps is going to be forced to try and make a reset of this situation. Has already burned Cyril, does not have a lot of economy in terms of health, but is being maximized thanks to the gold shield here. And they have to find a clean reset, but this is going to be so challenging with all the teams nearby. Shinny going down from CCE, Hambino showing out.
Some nice assists from afar as well. Funk layering in the damage onto CCE and making sure their life is a living barbecue. Hambino's got to pop out of the zone just to stay alive as Dark Zeros start to arrive on top. We got a minute left till the zone closes, and that is plenty of time to sow chaos in the western side of the map.
Well, there's been a lot of questions going on with the helms of Dark Zero. Let's jump into a listen-in presented by WD Black.
I'm looking with scan.
Nice.
I'm popping about.
Team armory. It's a full team armory. You go back.
Someone's on that back. Someone's on that spot.
Yeah, someone's in that spot.
I dropped cells. Cells here.
I'm good. I don't need anything.
We have to go back and then play for the bottom side of this building. I don't know who that is. Is it a full team?
Full team, yes, full team. I say at least two.
Oh, good. How do we get in?
Team armory too. Wait, on that. What the? Yeah.
All right. We slide down maybe and wipe this?
Hey, you see him.
Dead.
Nice.
Well, I'm gonna have to.
I'm getting. I have to
There's a guy on respawn.
I'm not there. I'm batting.
I'm on CQ.
I'm coming.
I'm nading in front of us.
We're gonna have to wall from respawn.
Okay, you want to fight them?
We have to fight these guys.
You want to wall this?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm walling. Come.
On me, there's a horizon on me, behind you guys. It's a solo or something.
70 on him. Dead. I'm first.
Hey, his teammate at like 60. I'm jumping through all at him.
C1. Two dead.
We can get in.
Yeah, I'm going. I have no wall.
I think we take zip.
Yeah, I think we do. I'm going. Go. We've heard this, I think.
I'm batting. I'm dead. You play me. I'm dead.
Come. Coming.
You can nurse me.
I can.
Alright. Need a charm bag and a sense of self-preservation.
There's a knock guy next to you. I'm batting. Jump. Cock.
Knock. I can't. I'm coming to you. Just stay there. I don't know. I'm shooting you. From the house team.
I'm gonna have to zip up.
I think, maybe. I'm gonna call to this rock.
No!
Do you have another smoke, sir?
Wait, where's my armor? What? Where's my armor?
Come to me! I'm calling to you. Yep. Oh.
Well, that was quite eventful, Dia. I mean, look at the comms, and I love to hear how they hype themselves up. Just a rather unfortunate series of events. I think he got that shield swap in at the very last minute, but it was absolutely decimated. Now, Meat Lovers, your team to watch is up on top of Mirage Etoile, Zainu and Funk getting tech back into the mix.
Fact that this has all happened so quickly that FaZe, the kings of the Mirage Etoile, were so quickly uprooted. Now that we've got, as you said, Meat Lovers on top, we'll see how long they can stay there, whether they can give the lobby a little bit of extra meat, as this zone is pulling further out into the east. A little bit of the Mirage Etoile still inside, and this is going to be an extraordinarily difficult zone for really everyone except for Meat and Optic, who have that little bit of cover still allowed to them by the buildings that they occupy.
Just keeping an eye on all the positioning from the teams here that are looking to take space. Drug Free have been living in this building since the dawn of time. Impulse able to grab a knock onto Albrelelli. So Lanimals are finding themselves in a rather precarious situation as that ring really starts to collapse. Asura is just able to kind of slam all the teams on the outskirts. Lanimals going to fall, but Saucerer has turned their attention onto Wildcard Gaming, and this is one of the most disgusting circles I have ever seen. And this is why that high ground of Mirage Etoile was so incredibly important, because all of those teams, as they get filtered out into the open, is just going to be literally shooting fish in a barrel for meat.
It says a lot that Cody has decided that the safest place to be is where the loot comes from. Just not wanting to interact with the rest of the lobby for now. You wait this out for as long as humanly possible. Complexity are going to be playing this one slow and steady, or as much as they can. And the next ring pull is going to say a whole lot. Meat do have a few boxes right below them, but Optic already controlled the building and the fence line right in front of it. A stellar position for Optic Gaming.
I love that you highlight that fence, because Optic's going to have to play that for as long as humanly possible. Cody nestled so safely into that supply bin, and you can tell that Optic knows exactly where they are, because that Ferroflute is heading in their direction, trying to piercing spike them up, but it's not going to connect. And anytime they peek, it's going to be Meat Lovers dealing so much damage that's going to burn away at the heals that they have available to them. Now all of the missile swarms going out, and just like I said, shooting fish into a barrel. Luta's not going to be able to cross.
You just can't do anything as Complexity there. Having to push up through all this open ground means the Meat Lovers are going to get themselves at least a third place. And we've still got Drug Free right below them. Complexity finally going down as we are farming out there. That is a lot of damage off the frags. This fence line that Optic are forced to play now suddenly becomes a hazard, and the Catalyst wall is the only thing keeping them up. Few precious seconds left on this cat wall as another one comes out, and in comes Drug Free.
Well, it doesn't matter when you've got the high ground that Meat has, because they can see over every wall in existence and choose where they want to drop down on. Drug Free absolutely eliminated, and it allows Meat Lovers to turn their attention onto Optic Gaming. Sure, Zainu is going to fall, but Optic is going to have to deal some damage over to Tech as well, because this is a war of attrition. And just like that, Optic take it back to back. Map number 3 victors. Look, I don't want to say I'm predicting anything, Dia, but I'm excited here.
That was so close. How are you allowed to do this, Tiff? How do you just get to predict Optic? And oh my God. We had 2 horses in the race there at the very end. Both of our predictions. Rain Day, that was a wild end zone, and one that really could have gone anyway.
But it didn't, Dia. You lost.
But it didn't. But it didn't.
Lost the tip. Again, we all did.
How does it feel? How does it feel, Dia?
I don't know what timeline this is, where everybody loses the tiff. I mean, it could have really been different, but yes, this is the life we're living now. Optic clearly overperforming in all the best ways, and they want to keep doing that for the rest of the day. 2 back-to-back wins. What a story, what a performance. Dia, though, what was it that gave them the edge? Because it was close for Meat Lovers, too. You had a feeling it was going to happen.
Yeah, we were right there. We were so close. But Rain Day, you asked the question at the beginning of the day. Catalyst makes such a difference, especially in these southern zones. The wall that Optic threw out kept them so safe in an area where they really should never have survived.
That is the benefit, Tiff, and maybe in a way, Optic showcasing not only what NA's thinking right now, Catalyst way more prevalent than EMEA, but also, just for the entire world to kind of say, okay, this character came in, maybe we start experimenting again, maybe we should go back, because this is really, really important in these final zones.
It's important, but something I'd like to go back towards is Meat Lovers has high ground on Drug Free, so it doesn't matter that they throw out that cat wall, because they have a direct LOS down onto them, and they were going to drop on the right side of that Dark Veil. Now, the thing about Optic is in that instance, when their Dark Veil comes out, I think we had it from Tech's POV. You could see that they don't have an LOS onto Optic with their Dark Veil. And now please correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to see that back, maybe in slow motion. And honestly, if we could see it back from Optic's POV as well, it's almost like you want to look at it frame by frame, that last battle that they had, because we can see things from one perspective and it looks like it's going the way of Meat Lovers, but it's the damage that's going back and forth, and you have to be able to see the positioning from Optic's side as well. It's tough. Now, oh God, production, you beautiful people. Look at this. So we get to run it back from Optic's side, Rain Day.
Yeah, so take a look at this. Nox, obviously, again, playing with that G7 Scout. I believe you'll see Dropped as well. Excuse me, Drop playing with that. Nox having a little bit of the long-range longbow. We'll see if they continue. But what they do know is that they like to play with distance as long as they can. And then comes the wall. This wall really gives a nice edge. And I would think this would be the most disadvantaged position because you've got to swing really wide to have an impact. But the second that they see with the exhibit where those players are, it's the grenades that set up the W. Those two grenades do it all. They can plan it perfectly. There's no way the enemy team can see it coming. Their exhibit isn't up. And so this is just pretty easy for Optic when you look at it from their POV. And sometimes that's all she wrote. Just a simple, slow approach. They've won 2 games in a row just like this, Tiff, walking in on their teammates. A nice little hip-fire rampage shot to seal the deal.
Is that what I literally just saw? That hip fire at the end connecting? My shots could never do that. Skittle Cakes, you're a legend, sir. This is the most impressive thing that I've witnessed in a while. And barring that the TSM reset in map number 1 as well.
Yeah, he sets it up right here. They break into flesh, and then just a quick little jump swap. Skittles actually avoids a nice little bit of damage too. Boom. And that's all she wrote. Optic Gaming take the cake. That is 3 in a row. Dropped. Joining this squad, it was Duplex, Noct, and Skittle Cakes. It was Duplex and Skittle Cakes. Then Noct came along, and now Dropped has joined. They've kept the D, but it's a different ending, and it is certainly a different ending so far in North America. 2 back-to-back wins for Optic as they had a slow start to the year, but not anymore. As we take a look at our series, our match results, excuse me, as Optic Gaming take the next one, 23 points, Tiff. Great place for them to go back-to-back.
That was an incredibly solid performance, and I would like to hear Dia's thoughts because Meat Lovers, they did impeccably well also.
They certainly did, and a second place is a good spot. And I will say that Meat Lovers also don't necessarily plan on an end game. Kills are what they're focused on, as their compositions do tend to drop off a little bit with things like the crypto. So I think that if you are a Meat Lovers fan, you can be very happy with this game. Optics still coming out on top. Meat Lovers keeping themselves in the conversation despite a bit of a lackluster game number 1. Drug Free, however, a very notable team to be popping up in the top 3 once more as Day. You'll recall that on the very first day of the ALGS this split, they had one of the best days of their lives, and now might be making a return to form.
Well, you know, staying drug free, it seems like anything is possible, and they certainly are keeping that name. Let's go to the backside of these 20, and it's TSM with a slow start for game number 3. NRG after a really nice, hard-fought 4th place for NRG with Sweet. They were not able to get much out of it in game 3. Sentinels also yet to find the rhythm. Native Gaming stay on the trend of placing low but getting high kills. Will that aggression be able to be shifted into solid play? And CLG, after 2nd place, dropped to 19th. They're 1 away from both sides of the leaderboard back to back. Not the side they want to be 1 away from, though, and 20th on this one. As we take a look at our kind of halftime team focus for me, I came into it looking at this squad. I want to talk about them. It is none other than Dark Zero. We saw them get going a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a, a confusing moment, Tiff, that Zero had with his shield at the end of it, but maybe just got blown up a little bit more than he expected. Either way, you could tell they started to find some rhythm as the games had gone on.
Yeah, the rhythm was definitely there, and it was rather interesting. You think later as their rotation progresses throughout map number 3, the challenging part here is Rambo, who's typically been very frag heavy when it came to playing on Sentinels. You're putting him on Seer. So here in Dark Zero, he's not going to have that movement that really allows him to kind of spread his wings and fly. He's known for making those critical end game Valk plays where he's just ninja kicking people and just doing monumental things. But now on Seer and not having movement, you're playing a different role per se. And you saw it when he announced his kind of progression to Dark Zero. He's like, hey, this was an opportunity that I really couldn't pass up on. But when he got completely taken aback by Hal in that Horizon moment where he's like, hey, there's a Horizon behind us, he just got essentially so much damage put down upon him. He doesn't have any way to really react and reposition himself except for his feet.
Well, you look at these placements, maybe not standing out too much, but if you're paying attention, you can see that there's a slow wind kind of brewing here for Dark Zero. They seem to be finding more rhythm, being a little more animated, and it may just mean that World's Edge is where they shift into the next gear. Of course, looking for some results here on the back half of the split, playing with Rambo. Heading into the series, though, it has been Optic Gaming with 2 back-to-back wins that have set themselves apart from the rest. Wild Card, FaZe, Meat Lovers, TSM, rounding out our top 5, and Dark Zero that we just had a focus on in 10th position. A lot of teams close to that 10th, though. The bottom half of the lobby from 19th and the top half of the lobby all the way to 3rd, actually 6th place, separated by just 10 points forward and back. So a lot of movement can happen here, Dia, in the next game.
It certainly can. And I'm looking forward to what teams, actually, especially like CLG, will give us when we transition on over to World's Edge, because for a lot of these squads, World's Edge is a more comfortable place, whether it be compositionally or just matching with their play style. Even a team like Sentinels, who has yet to pick up a kill today, I send you my energy, Sentinels, still need to cover so much ground. And on a smaller map like World's Edge, that might be what they need, at least for today, to recover a few points.
The Sentinel story, not one we're necessarily going to get into right now, but a story that you can obviously see, you know, they're going through a lot as well, trying to find their feet, trying to figure out how they're going to handle the rest of this split with the team shifting, obviously. So it's important to mention not only on the ALGS, we've got competitive things happening around the globe. We've got things happening here in our Challenger Circuit, and a big congratulations to our winners of the Challenger Circuit. It's Lonely Fans, Blueberry Smalls, Arcology, and Kuzme. Now, I do feel like I know Blueberry Smalls, but I want to give it to you, Dia, to talk a little bit about this team and their run in the Challenger Circuit so far.
I'm going to open with the fact that you do know Blueberry Smalls. Blueberry, actually, the biggest storyline that we had in the Challenger Circuit coming out of this was that Blueberry was coming back out of retirement. He, alongside Kuzme, ended up picking up Arcology and making a team that, again, has given us some of the best Challenger Circuit play so far. We said it in the MEA. It's been true for North America as well, and a big part of that was how Lonely Fans were playing. They were very slow and calculated, not nearly as frag heavy as the rest of our squads, but they were the most consistent Challenger Circuit team throughout 6 games that I've ever seen in a finals. And this is a really good look for a squad that is hoping to make their entry into Pro League, because they've already got a lot of this RNG control under their belt.
One thing you know, being consistent, that is one of the biggest things you have to master in Pro League if you're going to go anywhere. You can have the lights out game, but it's harder to do in the top of competition, and it's also harder to do multiple times in a row. You've got to have a strategy for things when things don't go well. That's a battle royale after all. Big congratulations to the Challenger Circuit winners, Blueberry Smalls, Arcology, and Kuzme. Lonely Fans, check them out because they'll be competing in the LCQ, and when you see that the chance of the LCQ could lead you to the championship, you might want to get involved into the Challenger Circuit. So check it out, April 22nd to 24th. You will be able to register between those times. It's been open since March 28th, and it begins very, very soon. So make sure to get involved and sign up for your chance. Use battlefy.com/ALGS to sign up. All right, Dia. You know, frankly, I'm tired of your amazing analysis. I need a break from you. And yeah, you gotta take a back seat, okay? You're too good, too close, you know too much. I need you to rest. Give me and Tiff a chance. We're going to cast this one and send you on your broadcast break. We'll see you back here for game 5 and 6. But Tiff, now that we got Dia out of the way, okay, what do you really think? No, I'm kidding. What do you really think heading into World's Edge is going to be the theme here? I know it's really not necessary for us to speculate. We're going to see in just a few seconds, but any thoughts on who might pick it up? I mean, sometimes teams really do have the Jekyll and Hyde performances on Stormpoint and World's Edge.
Yeah, I'm looking to the last match day performance when I think about that. It was TSM that kicked off match number 1, that victory on World's Edge. They had 9 KP alongside it, but they doubled down and won their first match on Stormpoint this go around. But Optic Gaming, they had a rather consistent performance, a slew of top 5 finishes joined alongside a 7th with 9 eliminations. So we could just see another absolute dominating performance here from Optic Gaming, and they need that. Just because I feel as if they are so insane. It's good to see some love here on the main channel for Optic, as well as, you know, we had some really great moments for TSM, but I just think that they need to play to what they know and look for those quick rotations. Don't get held up in those choke points, Rainday, because that can be really challenging.
Yeah, and as we switch to, we're going to see more Catalyst in having an impact in World's Edge specifically. We don't get to see the Ashe in this, which I think in EMEA made an interesting point, and I think synergized nicely in terms of a counter, but also that's something that can play with the Catalyst. But here we have seen this character stay a part of the meta over our 3-week break. They have not shifted too much in terms of what they've been playing, but keeping in mind our first half storylines of whether Optic will perform, we know they will. Whether TSM will do enough today to put themselves in a position to be qualifying for Split 2 playoffs, which would be kind of unheard of, almost like Dark Zero going back-to-back and almost in the last day having to qualify or not qualify to make it into our first Split 1 playoffs of the year. That's still another storyline running underneath all of these performances that Meat Lovers are having, that FaZe are having. So still tons to pay attention to as they land out of the dropship. It's game number 4 here as we head into World's Edge.
How are we almost done with this match series? This is insane that we only have 3 more maps left, but my attention is going straight towards Landslide. I didn't think that we'd have a contest, especially this early on, but it's going to be CCE and Noxious. Hambino already taken a significant amount of damage, and this could be a good start for them because they're coming into the back half of this series with 17th place, and now Shinny able to get that full thirst onto a Vexy. That gives them the upper hand. Now, granted, Noxious hasn't been finished just yet. Presley has that high ground, but they are not going to be able to recover this so easily.
This spot, hard to hold late game. Pretty decent in a moment like this. A Mastiff in hand and a Valkyrie. A lot of flexibility, but they've given up a lot of that high ground, and Noxious is going to go out. That is it. Kubsky not having the best of days. CCE, CX will take care of that one. As we see, it's a center zone circle. You don't always see this. Whether it will pull south to Harvester or north up to Fragment remains to be seen, but Dark Zero, Meat Lovers, Sentinels, they're close by either way, Tiff.
Yeah, and TSM, they've got the double beacons available in Lava Siphon, so they'll be able to hit the map room scan and start kind of making their rotation over. But Dark Zero is essentially being gifted a zone alongside Meat, because now they've been splitting that since that initial match day where Meat had decided to go from Dome to Fragment East and split that alongside them. But that information is going to be in the hands of Meat as well. They've got the ring console on their side in Frag East. They've got the survey beacon, and you can see Native just really making their way through choke. Wildcard Gaming is essentially going to be mirroring them, and if TSM waits just a little bit longer, they will have to fight their way through some disgusting choke points.
Time is of the essence. NRG getting involved. Sweet only on a white. Gilderson's backing things up. R99, we know how powerful that's gotten. Just a few changes to the magazine size at level 2 and level 3 made a world of difference for this weapon, essentially adding 2 extra bullets worth of damage. And that certainly matters. It's one of the things that's always kept it at bay. Not anymore. Wingman as well. But they've lost Sweet here, who is on the Wraith. Nathan, Guild having to get out. And that is not the way they hoped that fight would go.
Yeah, the call's coming in. I believe after Sweet goes out, he's probably calming that there's a third party in the nearby horizon, and for Nathan and Gil to just take the L and start their rotation through the choke point here. They're going to make their way through tunnel, but Dark Zero is finding himself a lot of action. They've already had towards meat, so they've picked up at least 1 or 2 members. You can see the crypto drone going to be destroyed by Rambo, nicely upgrading. You can see from Zainu grabbing that purple shield over here in construction. So they're just looking for, at least Tech was able to get back on their feet, but Funk taking so much damage.
And I'm curious to see the tech displays here, because he waits till they go up and then he jumps off. And this is maybe just a little bit of a bait he feels could work. They've got Funk Q. Do they have Tech? Is Tech nearby? I don't think so. I think they're just going to finish off one, but I think Tech may have made it out as he dropped off of that left side of the building. Yeah, and he found his way into that across the train tracks. I know Zero's looking for him, but I think they might just let him go. Could do a little bit of banner guarding here for a moment as they stabilize. But it's going to be hard to do it with the drone. And let's see if he can pull it off, Tiff, because, of course, you're going to have to shoot it before it even gets close. And, yeah, it's surrounded by a wall. They're going to be able to grab that one.
Tech, the aerospace engineer, IRL, showing us just how well he can pilot the drone. We're going to see a recovery similar to what Kashera does in EMEA when they are able to get that nice double reset. Banners are secured for Zainu and Funk. Now we just have to find a beacon for them to hit that respawn. And I reached out to Tech ahead of the match day here today, and I was curious a little bit more on their team dynamic. You know, coming into match day number 6, they're one of the top teams in North America, but not enough people are talking about them. And he was like, you know, our team dynamic is basically him walking 2 dogs on a leash. He'll take them out, let them off the leash for a little bit to have some fun, and call them back after that time is over. And essentially here, Tech is about to call them back, get that respawn so we can get the team back up to form.
You know, there's an interesting dynamic to a team that names themselves meat lovers and then wants to be taken super seriously from the outlook. And I think it's not a problem, but I think there's the essence of, it does feel like this team has a bit of a jokey, memey side to them. And maybe that's what Tech is referencing, that people are kind of seeing the memey, jokey side to us, and they're not seeing the fact that we're serious contenders. They certainly are doing a great job today of changing that narrative, though, because they've been excellent across multiple end zones. And that's what you want. I mean, and ultimately, that's what gets the narratives changed, whether you feel that you are being given enough or not. You perform. It's impossible for people not to make those arguments for you, not to have evidence for what you're doing. Tech's going to be able to get this one off. He's probably just going to hit a shield, a syringe, excuse me, for a moment before he does it, so he doesn't fall. But that should be Meat Lovers back up, ready to go at it again. TCE, they're going to go down as well. The Glitch Energy is aiding the Destroyer on Catalyst. We'll clean that one up after losing Reeds and Vayne in the process.
Yeah, but this is going to be a rather challenging fight. If you're engaging in any kind of a battle here in Harvester and you know that zone is pulling straight towards Fragment, you can imagine the teams that are going to be making their rotation. Can Aiden pull something out of the Matrix and dip and dodge? But no, Lou hits a disgusting Sentinel shot and just finishes them off completely. Lanimals mirroring that engagement, and they can just take all of the loot from this. And a drug-free also going to fall as well.
You don't usually see that, a double amp. You get the amp from the Sentinel Shield Cell buff, which is underrated, underutilized, under-talked about, because, again, it's underutilized, so we don't really have a moment to see it. But then through the Rampart walls, there's a lot to mess around with, and I can see why that's the preferred sniper over the longbow in situations like that. Very, very nice cleanup. As Meat Lovers get back on top, sitting in 4th place right now. Their hopes are still alive. If they've got a replicator too, Tiff, to get nice and healthy, get all those shield cells, syringes, batteries that they need to make this trek, which is going to take some time. No tridents here on World's Edge, which they do like to play around. They'll have to do the walking or the flying. As Zainu goes down, I have to pick him up.
They should be okay. They do have just under 2 minutes to kind of hit that journey. You want to avoid being outskirts of the ring, especially in ring 3, because that zone is really going to hurt. And you don't have a gold shield, in which we saw earlier in EMEA, where some of the teams were able to withstand the onslaught of the damage simply because that syringe was enabling them to live a little bit longer. Shout out to production for bringing up that map. They do have their work cut out for them. There is a survey beacon inside of Epicenter epicenter and kind of near Grandma's house, in which we saw the banners kind of hit that respawn there. But this is where the journey begins for them, and there's a lot of buildings free on the north side of Fragment West, but Dark Zero is just lying in wait, kind of holding construction and that respawn beacon hostage.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out, I mean, there's the double-edged sword to that, right? They are actually the closest to being safe when the zone moves, because it's only about 50 meters from where the zone is now to where it's going to end up being safe for them to have to progress. If it does take more than the 58 seconds for them to get there and zone 3 starts to tick. But then, yes, Dark Zero has not moved. They are waiting for them. So what is in store for Meat Lovers is still a hard journey. We'll follow them in a moment. Right now, it's 100 Thieves, who earlier on where we saw a CCE UCX fight and take down Kubsky. They are holding that high ground. Optic Gaming on the other side, Tiff, I'll leave it to you to set the stage for them, because this is the team you highlighted earlier on, and they have done nothing but set you up for success and follow through with your prediction. They have been the top team by far, and I think it's shown in their excellence in the end game.
Yeah, they just have been playing incredibly well. Their synergy is definitely there, and I feel as if they're only going to keep advancing as a trio. Currently first place on the day with 45 points. They have to figure out at what point do they want to get into the next zone. They're currently in the chokehold of Geyser, but a team is most definitely going to be mirroring them, and they need to keep their back clear and focus forward. But this is tough, right? Because Team Diverge is looking down the sights. They know that there's a team inside that chokehold. So how do they want to approach this with the Skull Piercer being inside the crafter, as well as the 30-30? Sleepy Panda was like, you know what, I'm just gonna craft me a Skull Piercer, I'll craft a 30-30, and we'll just have just an onslaught of mid-range damage. So I'm curious to see at what point they want to rotate, but they have been spotted by Optic, so they're going to double back, push to the outskirts, and just charge rifle galore.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to get through the tunnel and go in zone out on the other side if it's possible, but they may not have time. Maybe they're just dropping back to try to skyward dive over Optic, who have given up the chase and staying in zone. Meanwhile, Meat Lovers, they have made it, and they are still right next to Dark Zero. They've retaken that building where we saw originally Tech do his thing with Crypto and get those banners back. Dark Zero still holding the height of the open ceilinged building with the zip lines, so that's still trauma ready to unfold.
You know, Vaxlon's got their work cut out for them here. They're able to clear their back, making sure that no one's making a late out of zone push towards this tunnel out of landslide. But there is a team on the other side that is definitely knowing that 100 Thieves is there, and they've had a rather slower start to the day, and this is going to be one of those things where they're just going to have to fight their way out through the team in front of them. But Meat Lovers, full force back into Fragment, have made their way out of Survey and Epicenter area. They're currently on 2 blues and a white. And I love that they're giving Tech the white shield, because on Crypto, once you have that EMP, it's going to be the best way for you to kind of bully teams into leveling up your shields. And another thing that Tech had mentioned is they like to get teams, because their strategy is very kill heavy. They want to put themselves in spots in zone that enables them to really put a lot of pressure and essentially bully teams into just uncomfortable positions. That game plan is to get as much KP before they die, since their comp isn't as strong in the end game. But it's been a little bit different, especially bouncing back off that second that we saw in map number 3. Their mid game is strong, and the ability to clutch up and kind of regain in a very tough situation.
Well, there's plenty of teams to pick off of now, and they are all gathered in the northeast. Meat Lovers taking a little bit of damage, firing away as well. Dark Zero still in front of them, but TSM sitting in 5th place. It's a good score. They need an exceptional score. They've pretty much got to be exceptional all the way through. And I think it's better to know what you've got to do and know that it's got to be great than to be questioning and to be wondering and maybe even to be floundering, because you feel like sometimes you can take it easy, sometimes you might have to perform. They know it's just, we got to do it or we're going out of here. We haven't been good enough in the first split, and that has given them some very, very clear direction. Few Valkyrie ultimates right now. Skyward dives to reposition. In fact, Dark Zero as well getting contested here a little bit by Complexity. Dark Zero and Complexity in the middle of a fight right now. And also, you can see down below it's CLG in a fight too, as Optic Gaming are pushing up, trying to secure this building against LTC. So many fights happening around the map. This is going to be a tense couple of seconds as the round is about to close here, as it hits past 30.
Dark Veil is available for Noct, and they are just opening these doors and just kind of peeking through as many different angles that they can get onto LTC. The issue with taking an engagement here is that all of the teams that are looking for a spot in the next zone, they are going to want a piece of this. Arcstar is going out in Skittle Cakes. They're able to grab a knock onto Dan, so now in a 3v2 situation, and Optic is staying really healthy, but the reset is going to be needing to come through. Skittle Cakes just pushing forward, taking out the rest of LTC Esports. Now you can see here comes the 3P.
Really clean fight, though. They really don't lose a lot of health at the very end. I think Skittle Cakes has to switch his shield out, but overall, they only take about 125 total damage in that. And that just shows you how good they are at those team fights, and they find the building that they want. They will have to move, though. That was just a temporary solution. Meat Lovers have done everything they can to get back into it. What can FunQ do to salvage this? Does he run or does he fight? Seems like he wants at least the banner before making a move, possibly the shield. There's a Loba taking that away, or at least some element of it. So they've got to be very, very careful. Snipedown's the one who's keeping an eye on the left side. Does FunQ know he's got some movement ready to go? He does. He spotted out. They know he's still there. FaZe and Wildcard tangoing up on the steps too. About three and a half teams all within this building. All with a pretty decent area, and they're just going to push FunQ. That's the end of Meat Lovers there. They made it back, but they will end in 14th place. Just a placement point for them as FaZe picks up one more KP.
Just shows you the power of Seer. Phony was just off screen, kind of had his hands up, which means utilizing that heartbeat passive. You only get one heartbeat. Says, hey, Snipe Down, double swing this with me. Makes incredibly light work, because if you were to solo swing that, that would have just been the chance of a 1v1, right? Why risk it? Join that, double swing it, and just make light work of that. Now coming back over to Optic Gaming here, just on the outskirts, the edge of zone. I think this is smart. They need to clean up. I believe it was CLG that may have pushed in to try and 3P them, and Team Diverge not able to withstand the powerhouse of Snipe.
Yeah, diverging from their health points thanks to Snipe. That's true. Reptar here. You can see that's how easy it is for Sheila to break down these walls. And you can see the Volt trying to do it. Probably the best example you can see. Sheila versus the Volt. It's a big difference. That's why Rampart's been brought into the meta. And we'll see if Reptar can put her to good use. FaZe still holding inside. TSM on the backside too. Snipe Down so low, about 15 health and a little bit of shield. But here's Bird putting pressure in on Reptar. He's gonna have to try to fix this situation. Wrench in hand too. The heirloom from Rampart. Is it enough, Tip? Wildcard's gonna have to go crazy here. Big shot from Madness. That's enough. It does take down Phony and Frex. This is the end of FaZe.
TSM falling, CLG falling, and Wildcard making an absolute statement as they take down FaZe and Team Diverge. Something to note here is Reptar, with those amped covers, was walking around the building, placing them on the doors and forcing FaZe to kind of funnel out through one entrance, and Madness doubles down and takes all the free shots in the back. So beautifully done by them. But let's turn our attention to Dark Zero and Sentinels, as this is a very kind of gut-wrenching 3v3, as Rambo's now on the other side of the former teammates.
Yeah, Sentinels know exactly what it's like to play with Rambo and now play against him. Just a few weeks ago, he was on that squad. Oh, how things can change. Dark Zero, though, Jim Burton and Zero, happy to be on this side of the trade. Will they be happy after this fight? Long ways away. It could be Wildcard that they're looking to mess with there, because they've got to keep this against both sides. It is Lanimals, actually. Albrelelli who was sneaking in on that side. And they find an early down. I don't think they'll be able to go and pressure that. But again, taking away resources, buying time, creating an easy target, as Wildcard and Sentinels and Albrelelli hold the outside of this building where Dark Zero are drawing all the eyes, all the attention, but none of the damage.
This is challenging. Rampart is going to make a huge play here, able to allow Wildcard to try and make that playable, because the amped covers if they didn't have those, they're forced to kind of back down and play the last standing truck, but they have to move forward. You can see the time is done. That ring is going to be at their back, forcing them forward, and Dark Zero is inevitably playing from ultimate god spot. Madness throwing down the Loba ult, so maybe they're going to be working to get a bunch of utility in the form of arc stars, and that's exactly what Shub does, grabs those. Now we just need to see them connecting. The bracelet's going to go out. Madness playing forward. Shuby and Reptar look to join them, but Reptar takes so much damage and is going to be forced to heal up and not be able to get there alongside the team fast enough.
Yeah, Reptar, I mean, that was just unfortunate. They went for an aggressive play, but they should have just rotated. If they had that back, I'm sure they would have tried, but it was kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Dark Zero here in a great spot from high ground to try to finish off a few kills below them. Wildcard in trouble, and it's going to continue. Sentinels also falling. Dark Zero looking to get the better end of that trade now, as they are a full 3, but guess what? They are not the only full 3 in this game. There is still a team by the name of Optic Gaming alive and well on the other side, and they are taking down Native. As Optic Gaming, although they've lost a couple of shields, will help to see Wildcard fall, and now Skittlecakes fall. It's all up, excuse me, to Dropped and Knocked to try to restabilize this team and try to go 3v3 against Dark Zero, who are looking pretty strong right now.
Rambo took time out of the fight with Sentinels and away from Lana to try and take their attention towards Optic, able to find themselves a knock. They do get the reset on the hands of Optic. One member of Native is still alive, just between a rock and a hard place, but a literal truck and the ring. So just trying to play for placement points as 5 squads remain here. Unfortunately, not going to be living for long as Native Gaming falls here, but this is one of the most open and unhinged zones that I have seen thus far for World's Edge.
Tiff, this is terrible in some ways because Optic, they have everything going for them. They have the high ground. They can look down at the teams, and it's 2 solos on the side of Dark Zero. One, a former teammate of Rambo's and Sentinel's Keon, and then Lanimal's Albrelli, one of the best individual players you could have to go against. And so it's looking like it could be difficult, but Al makes it so easy, falls in, and gets lifted up by the geyser. It's just Keon now before we've got a straight 3v3. Optic Gaming versus Dark Zero. Who is he going to play? Spoiler 2. Well, looks like not Dark Zero now because that wall is going to definitely shut things off. They're Optic going to try to make a move. Seems like they might.
Dark Zero able to get a shield swap off of Keon. Now a 3v3. Optic Gaming versus Dark Zero. 2 international LAN championships at the helm of Dark Zero. But Optic has been so dominated. The Dark Veil going to necessarily split that. You can see all the damage that Optic is putting out. Dropping back from the fight to hit that bat. So it's going to be at least 6 more seconds before he's able to push forward. Now this is where things are going to get spicy, and it's going to be Skittlecakes, the absolute demon that he is, but knocked and dropped. Both fall. Now Skittlecakes has to clutch up for the team, but he's not going to be able to do it. Dark Zero, your map for victors.
Oh my goodness. Zero dropped, but you can see it in the kill feed. 1, 2, and then 3. And it's none other than Rambo with nearly a full red Evo shield, standing alive and proud to get his first win in his first weekend, his first 4 games with his new team, Dark Zero. Thea, talk to me about what you just saw there. You are muted, my friend, but that's okay because I can tell how excited this must be. You must have just joined us right away. I've done it too.
You're catching me in the fallout of probably the most disgusting push through a catalyst wall I've ever seen. That was incredible, and somehow also not enough. I mean, Dark Zero played really exceptionally, and again, catalyst wall making a big difference in the end game, Rende.
Huge, huge. You can't underestimate that, which is why I was so surprised to not see a lot of it in the first half of today. Not in North America, and for a good reason. Both of those teams had it. You saw actually Skittlecakes ran into Dark Zeros by accident and had to take a second back. It ended up kind of isolating him from the fight that was going on with Dropped and with Knocked, and that is kind of where, even though Skittles won his 1v1, it fell apart in the other 2v2 that allowed them to really steamroll on that side and catch him off guard. But overall, Tiff, that was a great showdown. Dark Zero did a lot to get there, dealing with Albrelli and dealing with Keon, but I mean, what a hard-fought victory, and I think a well-deserved victory, as Dia had mentioned.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, and honestly, Think about the comms on Dark Zero's perspectives, because anytime we get to have a listen in for them, you know the passion was probably seeping through their skin. They were probably screaming, I'm sure, a high-pitched yell at one point, but especially coupled with now that you've got Rambo on the team and we know how extremely exciting he can get, that just has to feel good. Coming out of a short-lived, retirement per se, and then coming in and getting a map win, that just has to feel so good. So shout out to Rambo. Congratulations on that, and as well as Dark Zero.
Yeah, I mean, there's an emotional aspect to this too. I mean, there's people talking about your situation. It's not easy, especially when you're a public figure. You do one thing, you do the next. People have a tweet at you. They have strong positive words, strong negative words. And as a person in the experience, you just got to block it all out and you got to go for it and do your best. You could tell there was probably a little bit of hesitation. He knew how it would be received, and look at this. To get that type of emotional, feedback that says I made the right choice, maybe there is really something special here, that has got to mean a lot to Rambo, as you mentioned, on so many different levels. But let's walk through this game in general. I know that we had been watching this from the beginning, Tiff. It was a nice showcase from a lot of teams. I thought TSM played decently until the middle. We saw Optic obviously have a strong performance until the very end. And, we continued to see people willing to fight, which World's Edge can be slow. Not this time. It was a very fast-paced match.
I think it had to do with the zone that we were ending towards, with all of the choke heavy areas and aspects. And a lot of these teams were just fighting for every bit of positioning, but it's a lot of those minute details that really change the tides of some of these fights, especially with the ramparts, the amped covers, and the open ending zones, Native trying to play the underside, Sentinels getting a good look from their POV of kind of what was going on, because Dark Zero was essentially sitting on top of them for a good chunk of time, and they tried really hard to prolong the longevity of their life. But this is exactly where we see Dark Zero just completely send on the last member of Sentinels.
Yeah, I mean, Dia, you said it was the most disgusting push between a dark veil, or through a dark veil, that you had seen. I want you to walk us through that in detail as we now finally have our final circle to analyze. Walk us through your thoughts here and just describe what's going on for this final moment between Dark Zero and Optic.
Yeah, you guys called this out perfectly, but Optic absolutely in the best position here. They know that Dark Zero have to fight another squad, and the fact is that with Jen Burton running the Catalyst, the best thing that Dark Zero can do is play for second here by committing to the squad below them. They find that it's a solo, and instantly Rambo takes this small angle, a little bit of a head peek, allowing them to actually put Optic on the back foot. You saw Optic panic, throw up another Dark Veil of their own, and at that point, it became a game of timing that I wasn't sure Dark Zero were going to be able to win. It took a concerted effort taking through this eastern side of the Dark Veil, finding a few stray shots in here to fell a couple members of Optic before ultimately Skittlecake's destruction on the other side could be rendered ultimately useless, because make no mistake, Skittle eviscerated Zero.
I'm telling you, this is scary. We talk about Jim Burton being one of the most dangerous players. It's almost been such old news that we don't talk about it anymore. But you add Rambo to that. That is nasty with Zero's play calling. Great use of each other's total health pool, back in, back out of the fight, hitting shield batteries, and managing those two Dark Veils. Great breakdown as well, Diaz. We see the scores after 4. Dark Zero take a win here. Optic Gaming grab second place. It's Sentinels with a nice run, nice performance. A lot of placement points there. And then Lanimals and Native Gaming rounding out our top 5 as we head into our back half of the 20. Let's see who kind of didn't necessarily have that moment. And you can see, yep, there's some teams already that I'm noticing are not on this top 10, notably TSM. But we'll wait till this graphic changes for us so we can take a look at that specifically. Meat Lovers as well. I think they did well. Drug Free, NRG, CLG. I'm not surprised that these teams are kind of bouncing back and forth trying to find their rhythm, Dia, because, it does take a second before you jump into, after 3 weeks, back into it and just hit full steam momentum again.
Yeah, and it is, I think, understandable. We talked about this a little earlier. Variation is going to be ever present, even when we do pop onto World's Edge, where teams are a little bit more comfortable. To see TSM, CLG, Team Diverge, and Meat Lovers all rounding out 11th through 14th, it is It's a tough lobby. It's arguably one of the toughest that we have in Apex Legends, and that's until we move into the LAN setting. But with NRG also hitting 19th, I think that's going to be surprising a lot of people, and they've been overshadowed today by our TSM watching as to see whether this team will make it into LAN. NRG has had a little bit of an easier time, but today it seems like they've got it rough.
That leads us to our series standings as we showcase them here. After 4, it is Optic Gaming in the lead. In the first matchup in A versus B, they were somewhere around 14th, or I think maybe, yeah, I think about 14th, maybe 13th place. And it ended up being Dark Zero who would take the win overall. Wildcard, a team that got only 3 points, 17th place. They are now in 2nd place in this exact same lobby. FaZe, they were really good. They were 3rd, and you can also see TSM, they were 18th. They're pushed up to 6th. So a lot of teams, Tiff, trying to make amends for the first time they met. First day of Split 2, match day 1 here in this group again.
Yeah, just a little challenging here. TSM, I believe they had a double-digit victory on map number 1 of the day, and that's kind of carried their momentum forward. So I feel as if going onto the back half of the day, or even more importantly, maps 5 and 6, those are the last 2 left, we need to see something that's going to trajectorize their journey up the top of the leaderboard, because they need to be incredibly consistent, finding themselves within the top 3. But Optic Gaming trending very nicely. You're right. That first match day victory, I believe it was a 6th place. They won the last time A versus B met up, and they're continuing on to do that. And they won it with 85 points on the last meetup, and they're already over 60, and they have 2 more maps to go. It's a little dominating, if you ask me.
Yeah, there's so much to happen here. Glitch Energy also taking 2nd place in that last matchup when they first met on match day 1. Now in the back half of the 20. So will that be a fluke? They've kind of had lesser performances as these days have gone on. Still 2 games to pick it back up. We'll keep following all the tabs and all of those stories as we continue. Game 5 coming up underway. We're going to go to a quick break, and Tiff and Dia will be back for more action here as we finish off our North America match day number 6. WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series North American broadcast. I'm Spider Tiff, that's Dia. We're going to be calling all the action here for maps number 5 and 6. And Dia, coming off some dynamic games that we've seen, these teams really have to step it up if they want to find themselves in that overall position at the end of the day.
That they do, Tiff, and we've seen some pretty big step-ups already today. Optic Gaming with the back-to-back wins, and I would be remiss not to mention the fact that Wildcard are having one heck of a day. Looks like that new org buff is shiny and nice, as they've been playing really confidently, so confidently in fact that they are one of our only teams to not just pull out the Rampart, but also the Loba alongside it, giving us a taste of a totally different read on the meta.
Yeah, it's tough. I was checking out Twitter because I like to peruse social media every once in a while, and Sentinels, RKN tweeted himself, he's like, look, we had a challenging time trying to play the meta in particular. The moment they get off Seer Cat, they get a top 3 finish. So I'm excited to see what that means for what Sentinels is going to journey through. As we think about the week that we just had during the break, there hasn't really been a lot of scrims, and how scrims perform throughout the time, it's rather challenging to say, but CLG here at Harvester are going to find themselves in tough hands with Native Gaming kind of decimating CLG at this point.
Yeah, good luck pushing that right behind the amped cover. There's just never a shot. Nice shots from Prophet as well to take out CLG.
Nice little reset coming in. 3 KP2 there, named 7th overall on the day thus far, and Clane playing Wraith. So we have a Wraith, Rampart, Seer. Very interesting dynamic, similar to what maybe we would have seen kind of with Lanimals or that nature, and I like it. I feel as if Wraith can really come in clutch on some of these end game scenarios, more specifically on World's Edge, now that her portal has had that double length. And with some of these zones being very precarious here today, they've been not even precarious, it's been pretty ruthless, Dia.
And this particular zone looking quite tough as well. As we're pulling over, centered on Fragment East, there's a lot of space to occupy during the course of this game. Whether you choose to perhaps put yourself over in No Name, a lot of teams are expected to pile up in Fragment East, and you've got epicenter height to worry about. Sentinels actually already making their way in from Overlook, and as you talked about, changing things up, now they're going to have to do it even closer to home, as this rotation is just right next door.
I'm actually loving all the attention that these Fragment endings have been getting. Fragment with so many places to play from allows for a lot of teams to make their way towards those end game situations, and Optic having rather the entirety of Lava City and Big Mod has led them to be able to loot up, get incredibly kitted, especially with those Big Mod weapons, and then rotate throughout. But TSM have already left Lava Siphon. They've made their way through the choke point and now are seeking to potentially take the positioning of where that survey beacon building is.
Yeah, this is a nice move from them. Now, you also have the opportunity to hold either of these choke points coming up from Geyser or Lava Siphon, depending on where you think the zone will ultimately pull. This one, perhaps deceptively, pulling us up towards the north, and it's what's making TSM push up a little bit further, try and see if they can find that spot in No Name. NRG and Wildcard, however, they clash on the way in, and Wildcard are already suffering losses in the picture-in-picture.
NRG needing to take the advantage position here, coming in 13th place overall with only 2 more maps here to move up that leaderboard. Grabbing the knock and full onto Reptar is going to give them that player advantage as they keep moving forward towards Fragment. They will be able to likely pilfer the rest of that team, but they need to stay very hyper aware, because with all the teams that are playing a lot of long range weapons here today, you do not want to get caught out into the open, especially with Sweet on the Wraith and not necessarily on the Bangler. They're not going to have any smokes available to shield their cover on their rotations.
It is a good position they find themselves in relatively early, and as you talked about, risky, but with the Wraith, absolutely doable. Nathan's got a shot out towards this beacon building, not one that they'll be planning to hit up, and you can choose to play under the bridge as well. So NRG, plenty of options, and already that portal being utilized just to make sure that they stay safe. It's a really good spot to make a play like this, as this is really the best time for you to actually make use of a portal that should be relatively unpunished. Sweet comes right back. Evidently, the exit not as safe as NRG would have liked, and playing here will be just fine.
Meat lovers having some nice engagements off screen, as well as Dark Zero in market have their eyes set on 100 Thieves. Amu taking a lot of damage, and Scurry is playing a little bit further back in that kind of anchor role here with the charge rifle in hand, but only has a 6x on the charge rifle, which not my favorite scope. It does work, but in these early like fights when you're playing a little bit more mid-range, a 2 to 4 or 3x much more beneficial, especially when you're looking down market. But it's unfortunate. You got to work with what you've got.
Yeah, definitely controlling space with the 6x, especially if you can grab a little bit more height. 100 Thieves do own pretty much uncontested this northern part of Fragment, and it should be pretty easy for them to hold on to. Crafting up is going to come pretty easily to them. You don't want to hold market too early on, but this comes as a big surprise. NRG, who opted into playing this position, have lost out on Sweet and Nathan, having just Guild left, and that is short-lived.
Hal pushing out of No Name and the building with the beacon is going to just overextend out and really put the finishing touches onto NRG. We saw that opening not come from Hal themselves, going on to Sweet in the Elim feed, and that was really well capitalized. They're going to pick up some well-needed KP, but NRG just not able to get a good foot forward. And I've had a lot of conversations because when people look at NRG and TSM and Hal versus Sweet in that IGL kind of conversation, they're always arguing and talking about, well, is Hal the better IGL or is it Sweet? And I've come to terms with, I think they're completely two different IGLs. Like Sweet will literally think 200 steps ahead, very maniac brain, big brain, right? But if something goes wrong in that plan that he has 5 steps ahead, like you saw he was pushing towards that beacon building in No Name, it was already occupied by TSM. I think Hal is more able to think on his feet and react and create new strategies based upon that. And I don't know if that's because he has reps with the counter calling on their team as well, but I feel as if reps is the backbone to this team that is so well needed.
Yeah, it's certainly something that a lot of people have talked about when it comes to TSM, is the opportunity that they have with the rest of the roster. Verhulst has been able to shine really well since he got picked up, and as you talk about reps, has really kept the team together, synergistically playing to the needs of everyone. And so many teams look for dynamics that are similar, that work as well, and it's a journey for a lot of them. As you talk about NRG, one of those teams that definitely rival with the way that their squad is set up, with the way that their comms work. Complexity trying to build something utterly different as they actually sit over by Epicenter, largely led by Monsoon. He picked up 2 incredible players. He keeps the vibes really high, and Monsoon has an incredible head on his shoulders. Very, I think, like Hal, adaptable in the heat of the moment.
Oh, I love the way you worded that. Adaptable in the heat of the moment is exactly what I was trying to go for, but my brain doesn't use fancy words like you, Dia. This is what you're here for, your beautiful analysis. But as we get a good look at that zone and where it's more in particularly pulling, this is going to be the deciding factor. But Zero on the Wraith as well, but kind of making a good move there with the portal and essentially queuing back, not electing to take the portal back, and is going to go back into the building that is broken here alongside Dark Zero and Co. Meat still out in front of them. So a rather challenging lay of the land, and a lot of teams are inhabiting this space.
And this is as predicted. When we have a zone that includes Fragment, a lot of teams like to prioritize it. It's safe, it's comfortable. A lot of them land here in pubs. They're used to playing out in Fragment and making use of the space and as much as you can coexist. The problem here does come when the zone does eventually leave Fragment. If we don't go dead center of, say, train station, a lot of these teams are going to encounter each other on the way out, and unfortunately, it just ain't that much fun. Teams like Sentinels, Complexity, even 100 Thieves off to the north should have a much better time than those currently sat in Fragment, where you are really hoping for the placement points.
Skittle Cakes & Co. still in first place overall on the day, looking to improve upon that performance from the last A versus B matchup. Over here in Geyser, very similar rotation to what we had seen previously in match number 4, but that's because the zones are pulling relatively the same now. Zeralt is out, and it's going to be Team Diverge, which is exactly who they had ran into last time. So a lot of the same, and that's kind of what you have to think about when you're a player in these lobbies. Your macro, like in a sense, that next level of not only worrying about your rotations, but you're going to run into a lot of the same teams when those zone pools are similar. So they know that. And Optic can really put the hurt down onto Team Diverge because they're going to be pushing towards that tunnel. But now they're being a little more aggro. They've got a little bit more time on their hands, and it's just really nice to see.
And if you can claim this tunnel, if nobody is ahead of you, as Optic do take that gamble, you'll have a much better time towards the next ring close as well, rather than having to fight up into the choke outside of Geyser that may very well be occupied. Much easier to take the close range fight with something like Catalyst, and fortunately for Optic, doesn't even look like anybody's here. In these tunnels, their rotation in is smooth as butter, and they get a very different look at the next ring that'll put them right next to TSM should they have stayed there in No Name.
The only thing about ring consoles is, yes, you get that next zone information, but unlike a map room scan, you're not going to be able to see which building is free space here in that next zone. So you're going to have to scout it out, rely on a potential beacon information, map room scan, or just the heartbeat passive for drop to kind of go up, check those buildings. But you can see Skittlecakes essentially, he's got someone in his line of sights with that completely kitted out longbow and skull piercer, just kind of playing with the time on how they want to push out. Round 2 is officially closed, so ring 3 damage is going to hurt a little bit more, so need to keep that prio and make sure that you understand.
I like that they took a long time, Skittlecakes, seeing if they were spotted, playing with Phony's line of sight, and as they opened the door, Optic, as it turns out, were very much seen. Their rotation in should still be pretty clean, but Dark Zero, giving us a little bit of a run for our money, have suddenly lost Zero, despite the fact that they're right back here in the same building, just having picked up Bo. Their recovery looks safe, and it is anything but, as their one rotational legend is now down for the count.
Yeah, we'll meet on the other side, kind of holding train station here, and now Dark Zero relegated to a 2-stack. Meat has that initial upper advantage. Seer Tax being pushed and prodded to find that information. Jen Burton overextends out to get Zero's banner. Takes a little bit of damage, but no real knock is going to be manifested there from Meat. So that's a good push by them. They can actually back out. You can see they're going to be moving towards trying to get Zero back into the game.
Hopefully they'll be able to pull this res off, as not a whole lot of time. You do have to be concerned about a team like Meat, however, who, if they do smell blood on the water, as I'm sure, they've already got their nostrils going. Dark Zero could very well be sent on. It's an opposite direction move from the Meat lovers, though, putting themselves a little further away, more central towards the zone, and making great use of the crypto as well to clear out this building beforehand, as the zone does continue to pull them further into the northeastern side of Fragment. It's going to keep doing that, and actually, interestingly enough, from our perspective, we know Sentinels actually sit right outside of Fragment, benefiting a lot from this.
I mean, to be fair, Sentinels do have a lot of solid ring calls and knowledge, as we can see that Rambo is going to be able to get Zero back in the mix of things, which is going to set off a beacon for all the teams around them. So now with Zero being that, typically if the player that is kind of not being respawned isn't the Wraith, I would have left a portal there, but it's Seer, so Zero was the Wraith player, and Noxious unable to kind of progress throughout this. Avexes is down, Presley is down, Kubsky just being punished from every other angle, and Glitch Energy is going to manifest a lot of KP from that engagement, minimizing the damage that they are taking. They have their sight set on that next team. With that round 3 closing, they are going to have to push all the way into Fragment, and we do know that TSM were the leaders in place, particular in that no-name area, already finding a good chunk of KP here, so that forefront very nicely. But Meat lovers, the positioning here on the outskirts of Fragment, I don't think the zone is going to necessarily end here, so they need to hold on to this prio for as long as possible.
Whoa, they're pushing up as well, getting real aggressive. Zainu, 2 Skynades, one actually finding a knock on 100 Thieves that ultimately takes them out. That is the difference maker. That's a squad's worth of nade right there.
Absolutely disgusting. Zainu with a legendary arm there, a well-timed frag nade, and 100 Thieves just not able to get on their feet here today in match day number 6. So let's go ahead and take a look. Good free cam shot giving us the outskirts of where TSM is, but Glitch Energy, who was once looking so promising, on the other end of a black hole and an angry TSM Vayne, last standing, trying to do as much as he can, but when you're focused on destroying that black hole, which has approximately 180 HP, there's only so much you can do to stop the onslaught. But TSM utilizing the grab lift to back away, hit that reset on those bats. Verholst holding the high ground of the building and trying to really cover fire for them. It's just looking so nicely.
Rampart doing a lot of work there, even from beyond the grave as well. Glitch Energy don't survive, as that's a really nice couple shots from How to make sure that they get shuffled out of the lobby. Top 12 now, so those placement points starting to accumulate a little bit more value in the next couple of squads, but really good look from TSM as pushing up. They make the best of a bad situation, find themselves just the singular kill, and now have to take a different approach into the ring. It's extraordinarily difficult though. A lot of other teams have already been looking at them, and when TSM moves, the whole lobby is going to pay attention. Squads are all around them.
Yeah, but holding this building there in No Name has denied information access to so many teams because they cannot hit that survey beacon, and now Meat Lovers in that last building left in Fragment have found themselves trying to hold off a siege as Native Gaming wants a piece of that. And the last time we saw Native Gaming and another Rampart deciding to fight, it's going to be how they utilize the amped covers to block off doors and not allow them to be able to push through. And is that a dual Sheila setup that we've got in the hands of Bullet?
Yeah, that's what we call the Bullet L Shad setup. This is amazing, and I really like that Native Gaming have gone for the Rampart. It's clearly worked out. I can't wait to hear what Rainday has to say about the legend diversity we've seen in the last 3 games, where teams are so clearly comfortable experimenting with their time on World's Edge. Klein does find a little bit of damage, seems to be hurting in the heals, however. Native have a great setup, but they are nowhere close to full health.
Dark Zero taking out AJC, but Complexity looking to get into the mix. Let's jump into a listen in with them.
Yeah. We're gonna have to jump and kill these guys.
Yeah.
We lost our back. We have to jump and kill these guys. I'm going. Kill this guy, please!
I killed him. Give me knock. On top.
I got both kills. Oh.
Bringing it back in, unfortunate. The frustration, you could hear the comms. We lost our back. We have to play forward. Phase going out, Complexity going out. But look who is reigning supreme, last standing. Optic Gaming here with the high ground. We know the teams that were available. Sentinels did have the ability to play that truck that are still alive. TSM holding that main building of No Name have pushed forward. But when you have high ground and everyone is filtering out into the open, this is going to be scary.
Could this be the triple win on the day? Optic Gaming have that opportunity, and it is a golden one, Tiff. Like you talk about, this height, incredibly valuable, and with the already incredible amount of range that they've got, I really like Optic Gaming's chances, and that is not a hot take at all. Sentinels still have that low ground. Native, however, do go down with the Meat Lovers taking them out. It seems like we're one step closer to finding our Kings of Fragment. We've still got Wildcard, Dark Zero, and CCE right up next alongside Meat Lovers here, though, and it is going to get real spicy as this next zone starts to close and Fragment is forced to exit.
You see TSM dropping down below. They're beginning their rotation. I'm curious to see exactly how they want to approach this. We know Meat & Co. are in that last building in Fragment, and an incoming Arc Star is going to put a detrimental thing, but the grab lift, they're able to evade the Arc Stars. They take a reposition. Verhol's getting stunned up on the descent. Hal getting Verhol's last standing, and unfortunately the openness of this zone is not going to be able to be survived as Sentinels lying in wait. They've been playing it so patiently throughout the entirety of this game. Seeing RKN back on the crypto alongside with that Watson, this is what is happening for them. They changed up their comp the last game. They had a top 3 finish, and now they're in the top 3 again.
And I cannot believe that once more Dark Zero have Rambo in that final circle alongside his former team. This time, however, the question is not how they will fare against each other, but who will survive for the longest against the Kings. Optic Gaming up here on the snowy hills. They are like the Wicked Witch of the West, and Optic are here. We'll see what they end up doing with their time, as a few seconds left until the zone closes means that they can separate the ring into 2 parts, remembering how important Catalyst could be.
Well, the question is, if you're Sentinels, how do you approach Optic Gaming? We know Dark Zero is still kind of nestled over there with Zero and Rambo. You see the Dark Veil about to come out. Keon just has the storage container in front of him, but they do have a charge rifle in the hands of Zenile, but you need to put enough damage onto Optic Gaming. And then if you focus fully on Optic, Dark Zero has the ability to 3P that as well, because Optic is fully focused onto Dark Zero. You can see the incoming piercing spikes trying to prevent them from moving forward. Rambo going to fall, so Zero last standing for Dark Zero. This could be an isolated 3v3 against Optic and Sentinels.
In both these teams, they know Dark Zero is done for. Sentinels are looking at Optic, Optic are looking at Sentinels, and that's the Dark Veil. Choosing to play for the elimination of Sentinels. Optic go down to the low ground, but they eat the EMP for it. Can they outplay this?
Hey, the thing about the EMP is it's going to initially stun them just a little bit. Dark Zero fully eliminated. I love the call from RKN. They're going to gather another KP, now solidifying themselves into second. Dropped, throwing out the Seer Tactical, but takes too much damage. Now 3v2. This is going to be where we need to see Skittlecakes clutch up, but he's going to go out of the fight just for a little bit, not able to get the bat off. Takes not a damage, is going to go for it once again, but this is all in the hands of the Sentinels as they drop down from the high ground on the rock and get wild. But hello, Optic?
There's no way. It feels illegal, especially after that incredible play from Sentinels. They pulled away, they secured second and turned around with the high ground, and yet, Tiff, it was so close they could taste it, and Sentinels don't get the victory, a well-earned second place. But Optic, with 3 wins on the day, at least a 50% win rate in the Battle Royale, that's ludicrous.
It's honestly impressive, doubling down off their performance from match day number 4. They won the overall match day with not a single map win. And here today, they've already achieved 3 map victories. It's pretty disgusting, but I'm really impressed by Optic Gaming. And we've been seeing a lot of them on the broadcast. Well, that's no surprise. They just keep winning, and it just shows that they had called that high ground. And honestly, I think the major key to success for them was bullying Complexity out of that area.
It certainly was. That height, really important. Coming out of Epicenter, there's a wonderful opportunity for really any team to take control over by the respawn beacon and just use those head peaks to a horrific advantage. It works fantastically for the side of Optic Gaming, and Complexity knew what they lost. I remember back to our listen-in, and Monsoon was overcome with emotion just knowing how difficult it was to play out that situation, because once you lose a spot like that, you know that you've lost a victory.
Yeah, because it's not just the spot that you've lost the game knowing that you weren't able to secure your back. You know how pivotal that spot is, and Monsoon is a real strong predictor as well, and having held on to that for so long. And that's some of the challenging aspects of Apex. You can be in God spot all you want, but sometimes if you take it just a little bit too early and you cannot withstand the siege and the challenges that are going to come your way from having God spot, that is the tough part. But Dark Zero, man, they had their work cut out for them as they pushed building through building. It was kind of a roller coaster of emotions. Zero falling, them being able to regain, then Meat Lovers trying to withstand the siege from Native. It just so many pivotal fights.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting that when we approach this end of the game, it gets sidetracked by how many skirmishes we had across the rest of the map to get here. But Dark Zero, they won the lottery. The Fragment Lottery was theirs, and they did it with 1 member left. Now, Sentinels, ultimately, again, great push to finish this off, and I'm so glad we get to see their perspective on the fight, as Optic did ultimately manage to clutch this up. Shield Bat's really coming in well for Skittlecakes, and a deserved play for them.
Let's take a look at the match 5 results. Optic Gaming 20 more points, 8 of those dedicated to eliminations. But congratulations to Sentinels. You know, maybe that switch back to the Crypto Watson, which is typically what we will see in other regions as well, just works out well for them because they know and can play their macro playstyle according to having Watson in the mix of things and having Crypto as well. And that EMP came out in the end game scenario, and you can see how it will stun people up, and they just needed just a little more willpower. But TSM for holding a good chunk of a solid portion of the map. Unfortunately, only able to get the 3 eliminations. I believe most of those were dedicated towards NRG, and FaZe rounding out your top 10, but Complexity, 6 eliminations. Had they not gone down there, Dia, that would have been such a powerhouse of a game.
Oh my god, it could have been amazing. Monsoon knows it, Luna knows it, Cody knows it, and Complexity have got to recover because, Tiff, there's just one game left. That was our 5th one of the day, and you've got one more time to now try and take on Optic, the champions, undisputed, of today's games, and hopefully find yourself into a clean 2nd place, because every point does matter as we approach the latter half of the season. We are determining who goes to playoffs. Optic is clearly going. Who's joining?
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the series results as they stand after 5 matches of the day. Optic Gaming, 82 points, just 3 points shy of their last match, A versus B performance, and they've got a trio of wins to boot alongside of it. Wildcard Gaming, very nice performance out of them for the day. They are currently sitting in 2nd place, and they've just been skating under the radar with a magnitude of performances. And congrats to Dark Zero sitting in top 3 as well. FaZe and Meat Lovers rounding out that top 5, but it's been very exciting. It just makes me realize why I love Apex Legends. Anything can happen when it comes to competitive, Dia, and you know, it's just been really fun. But guys, we're gonna cut to a quick break, and when we come back, map number 6.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Have 3 wins of the day thus far going to Optic Gaming, and we are moving into the final matchup of the night. Dia, the question is, can anyone put a stop to Optic tonight?
As far as this last game goes, the door is open. On the match day, they're looking pretty darn unstoppable, but Wildcard coming up right behind them are a team to look out for in our 6th game of the day. They've been incredibly consistent across both maps, and Sentinels as well on the up and up. Let's not forget, that's a team that put up 0 kills. They got 1 point throughout the first 3 games, and now they find themselves in the top 10. Anything's possible in Apex.
Yeah, I was able to peruse the match chat lobby, and I think I saw RKN, and they're saying, I am never playing Cat Seer again. Well, good, homie, because it's paying off for you. Sentinels are actually finding themselves, they jump off Cat Seer, they find themselves in the top 3. Then next thing you know, they make it to the final 2. Will we see a Sentinels victory here in match number 6? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And the question is, where is that zone going to pull? We've seen a lot of favored zones towards Fragment. Give me something different. I want a skyhook ending.
You know, it's really funny actually watching today's games play out, because we've actually got a decent amount of repetition. If we think about Storm Point, we went towards the southeast side of the map 3 times. maybe, just maybe, on World's Edge, we will get that three-peat, and we'll see how it ends up working out, because at the moment, these teams are getting a lot of practice when it comes to running those same situations over and over again.
Ooh, we're not going to get Skyhook. In fact, we are hovering over Fragment East and West in that dead center, and we are actually going to be running it back, Dia.
I don't want to say that I called it because I didn't, but I kind of feel like it happened. This is honestly exactly the situation that we saw on Storm Point, and now a slight variation on this is again going to turn into a big fragment fest. There are a lot of zones in this area that will end over by Market, Broken Building, even Streamer near where Meat are sat. So when we are playing out fragment zones where these pros should be at their most comfortable, I do wonder who's going to come out, especially when we've got Meat and Dark Zero both right next to each other once again. They are at each other's throats the entire game, no question about it.
I feel like ever since Meat left their drop spot POI of Dome and chowed Dark Zero in Fragment, I mean, we had PvPX on the broadcast himself, and he was like, you know, after Meat decided to kind of join us in Fragment, this is new, right? We thought we had the entirety of it, but look at the Sentinels. They are one of the quickest rotating teams when you think back to Split 1, and they have moved back from Cat Seer to Watson Crypto and where they are positioning themselves. We had just seen Monsoon and the Spire of Epicenter, but they are taking up residence just along the Icicles, which is going to be rather challenging, and the drone is going to come out. They need a little bit of information. They've got Ring Console and Map Room Scan in Overlook, and LTC are currently rotating out from Geyser to hit that information at Overlook as well.
It seems like everybody's rotating earlier, not just Sentinels. You talked about LTC. Wildcard have also left Harvester post-haste. They don't want to stick around for the NRG that caught them off guard just last time. But Native, they are in trouble, as their move out has actually cost them pretty darn significantly. Bullet L immobile on the Rampart. We'll see if this res ends up going off, but even so, it's buying time for a team like Wildcard to come up behind them.
Playing cover fire nicely. Bullet able to get back on his feet, but now is going to be forced to slow heal and only has a white shield. So rather unfortunate situations, but he's better back up on his feet. Klain getting poked and prodded, forced into construction. And now we just need to lie in wait and make sure the rest of the team can follow suit. Cutting on over to AJC. We haven't seen too much of them on the main broadcast thus far, but they're getting into a scuffle with Glitch Energy, and I believe they've got 1 or 2 members down. So they just need to capitalize and finish this off, but a lot of engagements going out in that center area of the map.
So much. Teams are hungry coming into Game 6. They know that for some of them, it'll be their last time to play in the next 2 weeks. And with Glitch Energy going down, they're the first ones out, the first ones to be taking that extended break. Now, Glitch, they're gone. TSM starting to show up as well. AJC perhaps on the rise in their 6th games. They have not had a titular performance just yet. Haven't made it into those top 3 convincingly. On the low ground out here, Team Diverge also unfortunately suffering with Hal flying in ahead of them. This is confidence from TSM. It is confidence at its finest.
Look, you've got to get aggressive at some point, and Hal wanting to take that fight to Team Diverge. You're leveling up your shield, you're getting KP, you're doing everything that is necessary for you to find success. And the last time we saw TSM go very kill hungry and just keep that momentum moving forward, we saw a very dominating performance on World's Edge from them. And I think back to what in particular it was, I believe it was match day number 4, their World's Edge victory was first place, 9 eliminations. So maybe we double down and find something a little better than that.
Certainly could do. They've started off real well. The 3 first falling into their hands, and CLG actually maybe taking a rotation up through the home of TSM in Lava Siphon rather shortly. There are a lot of ways that TSM can continue to accrue kill points and the placements that go alongside them with how much space they'll be able to control, especially as they move up towards Fragment, because let's not forget, they used to land there as well.
Extended light mag here. Level 2.
You always got to ping a light mag for your teammates. Let's go, Hal. Let's go. Made their way a little bit back, and CLG has moved into Lava Siphon. You see they're looking for some information and utilizing piercing spikes to kind of secure doorways and just zoning off the area in case of a siege to their area. But you've got to play it slow, and the charge rifle really allows for information gathering and just absolute bullying.
And we talked about it quite a bit today, but poke potential on this gun does go through the roof. CLG get to play patiently, knowing that they've got the advantage at a distance. And TSM actually, considering scouting things out for the rotation, are going to start moving further along, opening up the possibilities for CLG to make their own maneuvers, be they towards Harvester, maybe a little bit of Geyser, now that they've got full information on who's around them. The fortunate thing is that as so many teams have already piled into zone, most of our edge squads, like CLG, and that's a sentence I didn't think I'd say today, do have a little bit more time to take their own route in, since they don't have to worry about teams at their back.
Sweet. Bow check in hand, have already found themselves inside of Fragment. They have that next zone information. Watson fences up appropriately, courtesy of Nathan, and drug-free at Landslide. Impulse taking to the high ground. You can see the double seer exhibits are out, and Impulse is looking for a cheeky LOS. Lots of ordnance going out, but only utilizing the frag. Going to save the Arc Star for when it is well able to capitalize on it. Down onto Albra Lely from that frag, so now they're punishing Lanimals outside.
It's just not a good time. It's the second time this game that Albaralele has gone down, and it will be the last. Lanimals, they're out. And again, we put another squad into the hyperbolic time chamber, looking forward to their performance for weeks to come, because for now, it's time for Drug-Free to hit the stage. Let's not forget, this is the squad that gave us some of the biggest openings to an ALGS split that I can remember, with back-to-back wins. And though they've taken it slow and steady over the last couple of weeks, this squad can absolutely survive, even thrive, as we get later on into the day, because they've got the competitive experience to weather no matter how long the games go.
I say we go there.
Optic making their journey over to Overlook to utilize the map room scan. You can see the pings going out. They're trying to confirm on which area they'd like to pursue as they make their way towards the next zone. And as this is kind of mirroring very similar to what we had witnessed in map number 5, it is pulling towards more than likely Fragment West in Epicenter, as opposed to Fragment East and the eastern side of Fragment. But let's take a look at Complexity's positioning, because you know that Monsoon is going to recognize the similarities in these zones and want to set up for success and kind of get revenge on holding Godspot.
This is basically the same play run back one more time, but check out 100 Thieves actually right behind them. They take a small Valcult, scouting everything out, and they notice that Complexity are up on the high ground. Positioning an Epicenter looks like a passive move from here, but they're putting themselves in exactly the spot to contest Complexity should this continue to pull further out and into the western side of the current ring. So 100 Thieves actually could be one of our more aggressive deciders of the game today. Complexity having to be aware of their every move, lest they ruin the game of Monsoon, Cody, and Luda.
Be really unfortunate, but you know, Scurry up there in that area of Epicenter probably has a sniper in hand as well, so can really find some good moments to put down a lot of damage and just be a nuisance to the team surrounding them, because Complexity trying to play such an open area of Epicenter early on, this is easily punished. And we saw it happen in map number 5. I would just hate to see it kind of double down again, but as Optic Gaming on the right side of your screen is continuously pushing forward, we have FaZe that they may be led into, and there could be a battle towards that bridge.
I wouldn't be wanting to fight Optic anytime soon. FaZe going to give up some serious ground right now, putting themselves in perhaps not the most powerful position, but one that not a lot of teams will look to take away from them. Something that is sometimes equally valuable in Apex Legends, making sure that nobody wants your spot and you can farm up as you like during the remainder of the game. Optic are going to be playing things slow, but they are not the only ones that were scouting out around the eastern side of the map. Fragment East has become become very populated as well. TSM, Meat, Wildcard, and LTC all sitting right next to each other in what is increasingly going to be a difficult spot to exit as Optic take to the skies.
Snipe down, getting punished early on from a charge rifle right there before we cut on over. Skittlecakes taking a lot of damage though, but able to withstand getting inside this truck. You can see immediately goes towards reinforcing, piercing spikes out, trying to reset and find a little bit of stability, which is nice. And a lot of our Valk ultimates here today have gone extremely punished. So I feel as if even if you have a sliver of your health left, you can kind of stabilize once you get under cover. Now, had Complexity maybe picked up a knock on to Skittlecakes, they could have really pushed the issue here, but at this point you do not want to give up your high ground.
I do really appreciate as well that Optic are liberal with their cooldowns down on the low ground. As soon as they land, yes, Skittlecakes is in trouble, but they drop the Dark Veil just to make sure that the immobile Seer doesn't have a problem when coming back to the squad. However, Zero certainly does. Almost getting taken down as CLG sit behind the knockdown shields trying to survive for now. This is where Fragment gets really scary, and somehow Mama's pulling off this res, though I think it's going to be a re-knock on Nano.
The challenging part of this is those level 1 knockdown shields. It's so easy to push right through them, and that's exactly what happened. Mamba able to kind of body block by his teammates, get a shield bat off, but I don't think that Dark Zero is going to allow this to go on much longer. Zero feeling that passion is taking out the piercing spike, Seer ultimate going up, and now they have all the information available to them to be able to continue the battle.
They do, and what they notice, first off, is that there's another squad right across the wall. Dark Zero playing a lot more carefully now they know NRG is in the building, in the market, and NRG continuing to search for this last knock. You just want to take out CLG, then everyone will leave you alone, and there they go. Sweet on a sliver of HP, manages to pop the heal as Zero gets right back over to the team by popping into the void. This should be safe for both teams, but for Meat, it is not. Sentinels find their first knock.
Look, Sentinels have really found their footing and have been really exciting to watch the last 2 maps. And it's tough, right? Dealing with roster changes, trying to adapt towards that. But Dark Zero able to keep punishing NRG that are now occupying market. You can see that Nathan already going in and fencing up the area. So it's going to be rather challenging for Dark Zero to take that engagement, knowing that there are so many teams within their vicinity. So it's not going to just be a 3v3. You have to look towards Sentinels, you have to look towards CCE, Meat. These are all the teams that are kind of finding themselves in the Fragment West area.
Very few squads left that really have any ability to gather information either. We don't have a whole lot of survey beacons in the area. We don't have a whole lot of the ring consoles either. There is one right next door to Wildcard above the train station in Fragment East, but at this point, all these pros are operating with minimal information towards the end game, and oh my god, RKN is operating with a whole lot of pain to the face as he gets taken down.
Shinny from CCE on the other hand of that. Meat lovers trying to find a cheeky LOS through a window, but are gonna kind of utilize the jetpack passive to get back alongside Funk. 2 are better than 1. You want to have your strength in numbers. I don't think they're going to be able to get a respawn here on to Tech unless they potentially find a Moby available to them. But Dark Zero still here in this broken building, holding on to the outskirts of the zone. TSM still trying to push forward and fight their way in. So this will be rather interesting to see how Dark Zero tries to withstand.
Our 2 international champions of the past year going head-to-head with each other. They don't know it yet, but this is a grudge match, that's for certain. Dark Zero going to be playing slowly in Broken Building, and Rambo actually pushes up right here, almost taking out a member of TSM. He's going to wide swing through the zone and try and finish this. Rambo gets aggressive. He takes down Hal and opens up Dark Zero for the push. Zero finds another as Verholst goes down, and it's all up to Reps.
Yo, we talk about one of the most aggressive Seer pushes that I have ever seen. Rambo going down. Zero and Jen Burton able to both hit bats and go back. Jen Burton throwing out the piercing spikes, dealing so much damage because TSM has nowhere to go. A beautiful play from Jen Burton, but just like that, TSM sent packing in 16th place.
Dark Zero reclaiming their title in this game, but having lost Rambo, it's a real tough ask to get him back into the game. They got a mobile respawn beacon coming in though, and that solves a lot of problems for Dark Zero. 30 seconds left on this zone close. NRG noticing that there's a Moby dropped right outside, but having to balance that with the fact that Zone's pulling far north out of Fragment, and maybe, just maybe, pushing this isn't the right call for the moment.
A lot of those free cam shots showing the presence that Watson's able to show versus the rampart that you see on Native Gaming. The space that you can take up. You saw LTC on the outskirts of Market had such a large portion of that area carved out for them, where Native was literally behind a natural fence and that amped cover. But the portal coming in from Dark Zero to help regain that, but LTC pushes the issue, completely eviscerates Dark Zero, and are able to utilize the Watson fences for the presence. Now they're turning their attention towards the rest of the teams in Fragment West, and this is what I was afraid of for Wildcard. They're not able to withstand the pressure between a fence and an amped cover, and now they have to move. But Shubi, with the Valk, taking some of the cheekiest positionings here on the building to re-heal up.
If this is actually playable, oh my god, this is actually playable. We are revealing illegal technologies here on the mainstream. That is an unhinged position to play. We'll see how long it lasts. The meat lovers do go down. Top 12 going to be where they finish the day, but Optic look for the next win, and Dropped does it with a drop kick, not finding anyone. Native go down. 9 squads left now as 100 Thieves bite the dust, and Optic immediately jumping right back outside of this fence line, not wanting to mess with the monsters that lie within.
Meat lovers down to Sentinels, as well as Optic Gaming is allowed to get a free reset right here before pushing forward. Sentinels and LTC are going to be pitted against each other inside the building, and honestly, I'm really excited to see how that is going to go. But Optic Gaming electing to potentially turn their attention forward, and this is going to be one of those grudge battles, because we know Complexity was looking to set themselves up in God position, but the issue is they're so spread out up top that if any one of them goes down, it's going to allow for an onslaught.
We're seeing that very same onslaught inside the building right now as Sentinels make their final stand, being taken out ultimately by LTC, who have culled so many teams this game. The journey is not done, however, for McLovin, as he's got to make the exodus from the building, looking for the next rotation. Optic and Noxious right next door. Noxious looking for the finish onto LTC. NRG making the climb up past Complexity as well, have their lives in the balance.
Well, I'm looking towards Optic Gaming, because they're going to have to get up onto high ground. Skittlecakes does have the skyward dive available to them, but they're not done with the action here on the low ground. So they want to push forward a Moby for cover. Not a bad idea. Sweet and Code, they're going to elect to take that portal towards endgame. Dark Veil coming out to shield them just from a little bit, but they need to be weary of what is going on the high ground, because that's where things can get dangerous. That portal is not going to save NRG. LTC finding all the KP from that as soon as they fall, and Optic is just eviscerating forward. LTC out, Wildcard out, and Complexity wanting to get into the mix. We are down to the final 5 squads.
We're really getting close to it, and Optic may just be finding another win, but they lose and knocked in the mix. And Optic now are on the back foot through an enemy Dark Veil. They've got very little to do, but if Exodus falls, so do both the Dark Veils. And Optic, they're all the way out in the open. Noxious have gone down. Dropped is burning alive, and finally, Complexity look over at them and deny a chance at life. How are Optic in the zone?
They are playing off the tiniest bit of the zone. Check out the ammo that Skittlecakes has. This is not looking good. Pray there be light ammo inside that bin next to them. Now back to full form. Skittlecakes pushes out, but Drug Free not going to allow this to happen. Stunned up Asura throwing punches, but Optic Gaming going to come out on top of that. It's going to be an arc star, but now it's dropped. Last standing, taking on a full 3 stack from Complexity. It should be easy pickings here. We've seen this zone before, but last time it was Ascend in Complexity's position, and they took the game win. So congratulations to Complexity coming out here as the victors of map number 6.
And a well-deserved victory at that. You talked about it, but this was running it back. This was Complexity finding a little bit more space, watching their backs this time around, and ultimately able to control Epicenter. Rain Day, watching that from afar, what did you make of it?
Well, I just think of, the Complexity days with Reptar and Monsoon running around, with Bloodhound meta kind of kicking off, and Epicenter being this crucial element where they would run almost through and around teams to this incredible pace. And now watching with Luda and Cody and Monsoon and the way that this team has evolved, I've seen some great strides built from some humble beginnings and always talented and great guys, but now turning it into a team that is really a threat and performing highly in this split 2 playoff contention run. I'm really impressed with the Complexity. I got to say, this is a team that is looking dangerous heading into these last 4 match days. So good on them. There also might have been a story there, though, for Optic just somehow making something out of nothing continuously. And Tiff, I think for me, that was where I kind of turned into, I can't believe this is actually happening, because this is the team that we rarely see any others compete at the level. When they're on, they're on. When Optic's on, there's really not a lot of chances for other teams to have a chance.
It's true. They're looking like one of the scariest teams in the lobby. Their ability to survive in some of the most precarious situations, right? They're playing that, in a sense, just up against the ledge, and they could have used the Dark Veil to hit a Valcult and not worry about any of the teams in front of them and maybe challenged for the high ground. But I think, in a sense, a lot of that KP for them and a second place positioning was going to be more beneficial to them in the long game. Plus, they had already secured first place long ago on the match day, in my humble opinion.
And these are decisions that when you take them into land, Dia, end up meaning that, yes, maybe you didn't win the match, but maybe Complexity at that point isn't on match point, and you set yourself up to be in that second place, that big 300,000, 200,000 kind of pot. Optic has always played that way, and so I think this is a very strategic team that seems to only be operating at a higher and more consistent level, Dia.
I'd have to agree, and their ability to play for the win today was really perfectly exemplified. It has been such a glow up for them since the first half of the split, and I actually wanted to ask you a question, Rain Day, and I wanted to ask you specifically to bully you. Do you think that Optic look better now, or do you think that they looked better this time last year?
Oh, I think, you know what? I think Optic look better now, but I could be having a little bit of recency bias because of how they had that interim period where they didn't perform. I remember when we first saw Optic on the main stage, we did assume that these guys would be taking home first place, second place, or being involved after their performances when they first got together as a team. But it was a far cry from that moment until now. And now I feel that whatever it is, the energy, the vibe, what Dropped has brought to this team, how Skittles has stepped up, and how Noct has continued to be just the piece that set them to that next level, Optic look better. And I'm not afraid to say it, Tiff.
I think it's been really beautiful to see, and granted, they had a trouble in split 1 kind of adapting to the meta. We constantly saw them playing different legends. You know, Skittle Cakes, we've seen some standout performances and clutch ups on that horizon, but now playing Valk, it's been just kind of a work of art. And you see Dropped right here just looking absolutely disgusting, but there was really nothing you could do. Complexity was set up for the long haul, and they were able to grab a good chunk of eliminations prior to taking that victory. But it was very reminiscent of a victory that I had witnessed with Ascend. They were just holding the same positioning as Complexity, and you know, Lufka goes out and completely deals the final edge in the coffin. But it's after all the teams that are inside of Fragment West had kind of taken each other out.
Well, it leaves us with a great story here of Complexity continuing their excellence in Split 2, even after a 3-week break and getting back into the back half of our season. Optic Gaming, though, they have surged to the top. A second place doesn't quite do it justice. I like the kind of resurgence of Drug Free over these past 3 games. They have had a great World's Edge performance, and remember, that's where Drug Free had those first 2 wins the first time we saw them in A versus B. So starting to put these pieces together, you can see Drug Free, a good World's Edge team, maybe has to work on their Storm Point. On the last part of this are 11 through 20 teams. Where does that leave the question mark that we came into it with? TSM, 4 points, not bad. Dark Zero, a little better with 7. Meat Lovers had a great game, but overall, is it enough? Glitch Energy, another one I want to focus on, Dia. They did not have their best day. They came into our match point start of Split 2, getting second place here in a lobby like this. They are a far cry from second place. That will shift up some of our NA standings as we take a look at our main overall series results.
It certainly will, and unfortunate to see Glitch Energy having a bad day like this, but with a few days left, of course, you can start to gather a little bit of that mental right back, especially when you're placing alongside teams like CLG, 100 Thieves, CCE, Uchinix, and even NRG in 15th. The points aren't that far off, and it's good company to be in, at least historically. All of those teams, though, needing to take a big step up over the next couple of weeks. You talked about Drug Free. I loved what they gave us, and I'm going to call them out again. Sentinels turning things around. 0 kills, 1 point for the first 3 games. They finished today top 8. That is a gosh darn accomplishment.
I'll tell you what, as we look at our season standings, you'll get the picture. You get the dire straits for some teams. You get the confidence from others. It is Optic Gaming who take over the top spot, tied with FaZe. And in terms of kills, in terms of performances, they certainly deserve to be there. Meat Lovers, Complexity, Dark Zero, top 5. Wildcard, XSET, TSM, 100 Thieves, and Lanimals. They're rounding out our top 10. But remember this, we have a lot of teams in Group A here. Group A plays one more time until we get to our regional finals. Group B plays 2 more times until we get to our regional finals. Group C plays 3 more times until we get to our regional finals. So when you look at this, look at it with those eyes. Let's go to the back half now. Tiff, these teams have to make a move. A lot of them in Group C, though, a few like Furia, Luminosity, they play 3 more times. They've definitely got a chance to make up some of these numbers.
The entirety of the top 10 will be completely shaken up over the next 2 match days, especially with Group C having those extra matches that you had mentioned. And you saw XSET still in the top 10, knowing that they play so many more times. It's pretty astronomical, but this is why it is so important to perform to the absolute best of your abilities. And I think Sentinels changing and going back to the comp that they felt more comfortable on to salvage as many points as humanly possible was incredibly well done. But that's why we're seeing a lot of the groups here in the back half of the scoring from 21st to 30th being from those groups that don't have those extra play days.
Yeah, and that is a big deal, and it's in a row. So one of the things, because we had a postponement, is when you talk about momentum, you're really going to be able to build it every weekend. Every single consistent Saturday or Sunday, you're going out there and you're doing the same thing again and again. That is going to be a huge run coming up here in the next few weeks for all those in Group C. Group A, got to hope that you've done enough. You got one more time to prove it before you get to our regional finals. All right, that has been the start of a fantastic back half of our split. But in North America, there's always a few players who stand out. That's why it's time for our segment, our Monster Energy MVPs. All right, let's kick it off with you, Tiff. Who you got for your Monster Energy MVP for today in North America?
Well, I'm going to double down on one of my teams to watch and just kind of pick from within. My one to watch, my MVP nod of the day is actually going to be none other than Optic Gaming's Dropped. I know Vicky at home is probably screaming at the television screen, probably bouncing between the official broadcast, watch parties, and it's going to be all about the green wall. Dropped themselves 21 eliminations, 6.4k damage, 21 knocks. So let's just go ahead and talk about the fact that it's a perfect 100% ratio from the knocks to the eliminations. They had made such an astounding performance that they had in match day number 4 and improved upon it, almost hitting triple-digit points on the match day. So beautiful showing for them, and their ability to kind of push through and take these aggressive fights. Dropped on the Seer has really getting all the knowledge, coordinating that throughout Knocked and Skittle Cakes, and I just feel as if this trio is going to be one to watch when it comes down to playoffs.
Certainly one to mess with. This is a team that is dangerous. And Tiff, I mean, looking at those stats, they've got the numbers to back them up as well.
Yeah, 14 assists, and it's really dynamic. This is looking similar to some of the top heavy hitting teams that we had witnessed in EMEA, very on the cuff with like the Fire Beavers level damage that we saw in EMEA early on today, but it's Dropped doing it. And This is going to be so fun because we didn't get to see Optic Gaming at Split 1 playoffs, and now going back to, well, look, they're not 100% secured, but I would imagine that with having 2 match day victories to boot, they've got enough points to make it happen.
Well, as we take a look at our next choice, Dia, it's time to come to you. I got to know, Monster Energy MVPs being thrown out. Who you got today in North America?
It's a fair question, and I think, Tiff, you've made a great argument for drop, but allow me to pose another. My Monster Energy MVP for the day is going to be Jen Burton, the monster himself, coming out of Dark Zero. This is one of the players known as the best controller player in the world, and it's for a fantastic reason. Jen Burton got 5.9 thousand damage on the day. He was second in total knocks throughout the day with an 81% conversion of knocks to kills. He's got 11 assists, and being able to pick up that much is, in multiple stats, quite impressive on its own. But what sets him apart for me from the rest is the intangibles, because Jen Burton is doing all of this while also operating on the Catalyst. Immobile, but incredibly useful. He's putting up numbers for the team, and he's defending them when necessary, siphoning off areas of the zone to play when necessary, and that's what makes Jen Burton the most valuable player.
My goodness, Immobile, you didn't have to do Catalyst like that, Dia. She doesn't want to move because she doesn't have to. She just sets up defenses, okay? If she needed to, she could get out there and run with the best of them. But I got to say, somebody else caught my eye in our Monster Energy MVPs, and that was none other than Skittle Cakes. I know we're nominating 2 members of Optic, but Tiff's been right so much today, I have to join her in this final moment of our broadcast. I do think Skittle Cakes, though, brings something special to this team that wouldn't allow Noct or Drop to do exactly what they do without him. I first saw this guy sitting behind me on a plane in France, believe it or not, heading to our very first land in Sweden. And we ended up talking, realizing we're going to the same place. Not only that, I'm actually talking to one of the players that would steal the show. He ended up being such a crucial element of this team, not only because he plays that kind of role, getting more assists than Dropped today and Noct, allowing his team to still prioritize off of the damage that he's bringing together, but it's his knowledge. You wonder, how do they play these spots? How do they know these end zones? How are they always in the right spot at what seemingly is the right time? It's because Skittle Cakes prides himself on studying the game more and better than anybody else in the ALGS scene. It's his words, not mine, but I certainly think today he proved it. With 6,268 damage, 10 kills, and 18 assists on a Valkyrie, you cannot deny that Skittle Cake definitely deserves a shout out at the Monster Energy MVP. Well, those have been your Monster Energy MVP picks, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for today, but we'll see what happens next time as we get our broadcast underway. Well, it's been super fun. I've really enjoyed North America in many different ways, and I think part of what's made this so fun is we've got to see different players, different teams step up to the plate and really make an impact. Wildcard kind of comes to mind today. I think Meat Lovers as well, showing that there are some teams, maybe not in the forefront, maybe not in the kind of storyline forefront like TSM and Optic, that we need to start paying more and more attention to as these next days go on. But of course, this also gives us time as we close the show for one of my favorite segments. As always, it's WD Blacks. What's in your pack? All right, back on Tiff, Dia. This time I'm going to start with Dia because what's in your pack for North America is a weapon we saw used in the beginning all the way to the end to much efficacy, and that is the G7 Scout.
Oh yes, G7 Scout, a weapon that we, as you said, got to see so much of today, and that I am a big fan of in my own games. With incredible hip fire and range to boot, this marksman weapon has largely taken over the scene. This was ever since, actually, Tiff, you mentioned this. It used to be in the crafter. Back in the replicator, it was one of our first weapons taken away from popular use, and even came right back out of the care package just to let more people have at this incredible weapon. In double light, especially when the R9 is so powerful, being able to use this at long range is an incredible option.
Tiff, you know, you mentioned that hip fire play that we were watching earlier in some of these highlights is something you couldn't do. But when you see the impact it has, it's something that every player, whether they're new, joining Apex, or a pro, should try their best at, because it certainly is a weapon that gets the job done.
It definitely does. And you just think of the 34, 34, 34. It can put an absolute power pack. And it's rather up to you if you like to utilize the double tap to kind of double fire down onto it. I know some people enjoy it. I personally don't. It's all about personal preference. But the option to have that on the G7 Scout. But I just remember, I think back to a time where at one point it was dubbed Scout Legends. It wasn't Apex Legends. It was Scout Legends because everyone had a G7 Scout in hand.
Well, of course, every day, every show, we highlight some of the best and most important items that you can find and carry around to use to your benefit in Apex Legends. But the G7 Scout was in our pack today, thanks to WD Black. Today, we've seen many different teams perform, but one team stood above the rest. Not only did they win twice, but they were able to get into nearly every end zone and have an impact in a big way. Does this start the journey to a trophy situation in just a few months? We're here to find out. We're here to talk to one of the members, one of the newest members of this team, Optic Gaming, as they join us here. Say hello to Optic Gaming. Dropped. It's good to see you, man. Congratulations on the win today, and thanks for staying with us.
Hey everyone. Yep, thanks, appreciate it. Definitely some really good games today.
So, Drop, talk to me a little bit about your experience joining Optic and some of the highs and maybe a low, because it does feel that you guys have gotten off to a synergy that we haven't seen Optic have in a while. What's been working? What's something you've had to work on?
I would say that, there definitely has been a couple lows, but, these past 2 Pro League days have been, the highest of highs. We've completely dominated them. We've really kind of been coming into our form. I would say that some of the lows might have been kind of, just adapting, while also having the scrutiny from everyone, saying, oh, you know what I mean? They made the wrong choice, yada, yada. But, it feels good to silence all those haters and, just let the plan doing the talking, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, surprisingly. Actually, us casters can get a little bit of onslaught as well. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about that since you went ahead and brought it up. How do you navigate some of your mental health in regards to the haters and the people that keep chatting? It's always going to be there. And then you'll have them kind of bandwagoning on and you're proving them why you were supposed to be where you are. And you guys are looking so good. You talk about that final form, but how do you deal with it as a player?
I would say that I kind of just get a kick out of it, honestly. I've been doing esports now for, 7 years. And for the most part, the negative stuff, I don't let it affect me too much. I kind of just will laugh at it. You know what I mean? You can't really take what people say too seriously most of the time, just because, you only want to really take the opinion from people that you respect. Most of these people, I don't even know who they are. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like my outlook on it. I just get a kick out of it. When people were saying, oh, Optic, playing bad, they made the wrong choice with dropped, I would just kind of like, not let it faze me, just laugh at it, if anything, if they made a funny comment kind of thing. But, that's what I'm here to do, is just play. I don't need to be worrying about all that kind of stuff.
Now, I've got 2 questions for you, Dropped. The first one's hard mode. What's your cat's name?
Cats? Oh, my cat up there. Okay, that's Honey right there.
Okay, wonderful. I was just asking the question that everybody in chat had, because we all saw the cat and went, oh my God. Now, the second question that I've got for you is more focused on you and your growth with Optic Gaming, because as you said, last 2 weeks have been sky high for you guys. Where have you personally improved the most this year?
I'd say that my biggest personal growth would probably just be in my IGLing. I think that I've really came into form with IGLing. I'm not gonna sit here and take all the credit. I've never been a main IGL, the only one talking. With SSG, it was me and Frex, and then now with Optic, it's kind of all of us. I'd say it's more so me and Skittle, but Noct as a third, you always want to have someone that can make those calls when they need to. Noct makes amazing calls as well. So I would say that it would be just my outlook on the game as an IGL, and just the game planning that goes into rotates and et cetera, et cetera.
Very nice.
Dropped. It's been great. You know, we talked a lot at LAN. You know, we kind of kept that conversation between us and the players who were there, but now feels like things are all out in the open. I just want to get an assessment now heading into LAN, heading into this next phase. You're going to be there in very different circumstances with a very different team and maybe very different chances in your mind. So give me a preview. What's the temperature in North America? Are you guys feeling like you could take this all the way? Is this the optic split? Talk to me about how internally, how confident you guys are feeling about your chances at LAN.
I mean, I told my teammates today in the very last game, I told them, I was like, you know, the game hasn't felt this easy, you know, playing tournaments with a team than I've ever felt before. So, you know, we're definitely very confident. You know, I'm not going to sit here and act like we're just going to dominate everyone, because you do have to work for it, you know, and that's what we're, you know, willing to do is work for it. So I'd say that our chances are looking pretty good to qualify for LAN at this point. And then, you know, winning it, we'll worry about that when we're there. You know what I mean?
I love it. Job's not finished mentality. Go out there and keep performing. That's all you need to do. Thank you so much, Drop. Congratulations with Optic Gaming taking the win here in match day 6.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, Optic Gaming. Great performance, guys. Tiff, back of that on the reaction on closing of the day 2. What a day we've seen. What an opportunity for Optic Gaming to show that they really do have the stuff. He's being pretty humble, I think. It's pretty clear that they're going to be going to LAN at this point with how well they're playing and kind of the position that they're in. But let's just say that they do make it there. I think there's also got to be a lot of confidence that they're playing better than they ever have.
It's really nice to see. I feel as if we don't get to see enough from some of these players. And when you get to speak to them here on the broadcast, it's inevitable that Dropped has such a good head on his shoulders, very grounded, and just has a good outlook of where he and his team want to go. And you can see that he's not giving just the credit to himself. And I love that he hypes up the teammates as well. And it just speaks to the level of their team synergy, which at the backbone of this game has been what has allowed our teams to find the most success. It's that team synergy, the teamwork, and their ability to adapt. And it was beautiful to see. So once again, I hope to see that domination continue forward for Optic.
Well, great job today, Tiff. Thanks for those thoughts as well. Dia, I'll pose it over to you. How are we feeling about the end of today and the overall start of our second half of this split? Things only get more intense from here. The stakes only raise. We're seeing tweets all on the timeline from teams claiming they're going to be doing watch parties now, teams claiming that, you know, they're looking pretty good and back-to-backs. What's your temperature take, and how are we looking heading into the back half of this split?
I think in the back half of the split, I'm not going to try and predict a battle royale. This one's going to be really tough, of course. We've got those top performers, and I want to see who makes the cut. But what's really heartening me, Rain Day, is as somebody who really likes seeing legend diversity, the amount of experimentation that we got today alone. The first half of the split, it was all Cat, Seer, Valk. It was all teams trying to just outdo each other on the same composition. And now we're seeing them embrace the individuality that they all bring to the table. And that is what makes Apex Legends so special, and it's what makes me so excited to see what happens in future weeks.
It's been great having you on broadcast yet again. Tiff, Dia, thank you so much. We will see you on the next one. For those still here, we appreciate you. Let us give you some info on what is next, because we have an updated broadcast schedule for the ALGS. It all starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time for our EMEA matches. We'll do a full day whenever we kick it off there, just like we did today. Match day 6 was today. And then match day 7, we are on April 23rd. That is next Sunday. Then April 29th, be aware, that is next if you're in the States, Saturday. So we're going Sunday, Saturday, and then we're going another Sunday. So 2 days in a row of Apex Legends action. I'll be there for most of them. Not April 30th, though. I got a wedding. I might be airing out too much of my dirty business, but I won't be there. But May 7th, we will be, and that'll be our regional finals. And my goodness, that will decide who is going to LAN, and I cannot wait. What an exciting time it is to be an Apex Legends fan. I do want to say, though, coming up in Show 7, you saw Danish, you saw Fire Beavers. Well, you're going to see them again. Remember, only one more day to play, but teams in Group B, like Fire Beavers, teams in Group C, they've got so much more to prove. Will Horizon Union finally find a way on their own into the playoffs? Will Dark Zero take on NRG and this time take home the victory and the match day? It's still XSET who in Group C, still in the top 10, maybe the best, most consistent team across every league so far in Split 2. I cannot wait to see how they continue and how they perform. From everyone on the EA side and Respawn, we want to appreciate you and tell us to follow us on our social medias at Play Apex Esports on Twitter and Play Apex Esports on YouTube. You'll see all live VOD broadcasts and special game highlights and special content that you won't find anywhere else. My name has been Rainday. You can find me at Rainday Gaming on Twitter and all over the place on social. Thank you from everyone at Respawn, from the game, our production, our team creating this experience, and our players, of course, putting on a show. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, never give up, never stop gaming. We'll see you all for match day number 7.
Sentinels land right on top of GSM. There's a shield swap on the other side, and Prex has to crack through it. He does. LTC go down.
And this is one of the most disgusting circles I have ever seen.
Whoa, and they're pushing up as well.
Optic is just eviscerating forward.